You're very welcome along to Monday morning's OTBAM. It's our first ever bi-location OTBAM and it's a very special show for you. In studio here today, we're going to be chatting a lot about the football and about the rugby, about a pretty eventful weekend for the Irish provinces and of course for the Republic of Ireland in the Aviva Stadium. But then at around 9 o'clock, we're going to be crossing over to the Google Foundry. Ger is going to be taking over for the launch of the 20x20. So that's a national movement to champion Irish girls and women in sport. Jessica Harrington, Rena, Buckley, Roy Keane and Graham Shaw are going to join him. But in studio with me this morning, we've got Kenny Cunningham and Stephen Hunt. Lads, how are things?
Morning. I'll go down, all good.
So you were saying before we came on air, Peter outside is eating his Cheerios. You said that you're not a cereal guy. I know we always descend into food talk here with Kenny, as I'm sure you're aware, Stephen. But now that's big news that you're not a cereal guy.
No, well, not that tough. I mean, traditional man. It was cornflakes or Rice Krispies in my household. That was it. They were the options. Oh, a bit of Weetabix.
Porridge?
But nobody went the Weetabix option. Let's be honest.
Right? Why?
Really. Well, no.
Porridge?
No, jeez, no.
It's gotta be porridge.
Ready break. Bit of was that like a porridge substitute? Cheap. Well.
Well, speaking of cheap.
You means, that's all the budget stretched in my household, a bit of ready break or a cornflake.
You did come in with a venti Starbucks this morning, and Stephen Hunt came in and was like, "Where's my coffee?" There was no call to you this morning, as far as I understand, Stephen, from Kenny when he was picking up a coffee. So
I would have called off the ball headquarters and said, "Right, who wants coffee?"
I haven't got your number. You've never actually given me your number. You have
No.
have asked a couple of times.
But I would have rang Tommy or one of the lads backstage, said, "Right, who needs coffee?" Or
well, that's it.
Stephen have a lot of names in his phone ahead of mine. Let me tell you that. I'll be way down on his list of priorities.
Yeah, absolutely. We do have an opportunity as well, I should say, to actually pick up a couple of tickets to tomorrow night in the Aviva for Ireland against Wales.
A couple of hundred, did you say? Or?
A couple of tickets.
Oh,
you just retweet the stream and you'll be in with a chance to win that. Let's tell you what's coming up on this morning's show. As I say, we are going to be crossing over to the Google Foundry a little bit later on at around 9 o'clock. Plenty of football analysis before that with the two lads in studio. We'll also be hearing from Martin O'Neill, Cyrus Christie, Uga Haraida and a number of other names from Saturday evening at the Aviva Stadium. Alan Quinlan then is going to join us at around 8:30 or shortly after to analyse that win for Munster in Sandy Park. Also the trashing that Wasps experienced in Dublin and a bit on Ulster as well. We might touch on Connacht as well if we've got time. A good weekend for them as well in the Challenge Cup. Before all that though, it is time for the sports pages.
OTB AM.
Thanks to Screwfix.ie. Championing the trade with a dedicated call centre.
I was looking for a chance to come in there. You didn't give me a chance.
OTB.
That was that smooth. Like, you never even hesitated. Otherwise, I was in.
Well, we'll give you an opportunity to come in here now, Kenny. We'll go through some of the back pages, Kenny. You've got a knack of not realising when the mic is live to you.
I've got me back to play, unfortunately.
Play to the whistle. Actually, what is...
Peripheral vision is shit. Horrible, horrendous.
When we're on that, the sort of play to the whistle analogy there, what was your take on the Jeff Hendrick thing on Saturday night? Like, if you were in that position,
I must be missing something here. I didn't see it at the time because for me, he shoots and he scores, and there's no apology required. Martin was speaking about he might have had to give him the goal back. I mean, I don't understand it. The referee didn't, as I saw, the referee didn't blow his whistle. The game was in play. If their player stops, good luck. Take the ball off him and put it in the back of the net, and don't apologise. It really is as simple as that. Players should not referee the game. I mean, even at the moment now, it's been taken to the extreme. Players are abusing it. Players are going down, knowing there's a obligation on behalf of the other players to stop the play. We're seeing it. They're doing it for their own teammates, looking for a bit of downtime. Go down. You know, the opposition players under extreme pressure to put the ball out. How do we start the game again? We start by kicking the 60 yards further down the pitch, disadvantage yourself. The whole thing is an absolute mess. And the only way to resolve it, let the referee the game and don't stop the game under any circumstances.
the referee's got to stop it, in my opinion.
Why?
Because one, the player is down, and it's our player.
What?
It's our player.
So what? It doesn't matter whose player it is.
On Jeff
He's
Hendricks.
down on the pitch.
Yeah, but Jeff Hendricks
got a bit of
didn't.
cramp.
Okay, let me talk for a sec. Jeff Hendricks didn't know that he was injured.
He shouldn't
So
stop
he has no
anyway.
apology anyway, and he shouldn't stop. I agree with you, but he didn't know. But what got me was Kasper Schmeichel's reaction after the game. He didn't know. He pretty much hammered Hendricks for what.
But are you saying if Jeff had seen Harry down, he should have stopped?
Yeah.
Why?
Because they stopped.
Yeah,
he did.
so
Delaney,
we got to stop because they stopped.
Delaney didn't give the ball away all night playing centre midfield.
Yeah, I agree with you there.
And literally, he stopped.
But why should the game stop if a player falls to the ground? Why should the game
It was
stop?
0-0. It wasn't in any interest for Denmark.
It doesn't matter. The only reason why the game should stop if a player is in a serious injury.
Yeah, it's a head injury.
And the referee,
I understand that.
The referee was 5 yards away, had a look at Hardy and thought, nah, he's okay.
Should Thomas Delaney have booted the ball out of play?
No.
I think Delaney probably should play on. Yeah, I agree with that, with all the overall circumstances. But in that situation there, the referee used his common sense, seeing what was going to happen and what could have caused if the ball.
I think the referee did use his common sense. He looked at Hardy. It's irrelevant whether it's Hardy or anybody else. Looked at Hardy. He's all right. Play on, and if an opposition player stops, unlucky.
Are you saying that as an Ireland fan now? Or
no, that's what I'm saying. Irrelevant if it was an Irish player down or a Danish player down.
Martin would have said go and score.
Well, he did say that after the game, but
Roy, do you reckon Roy would have wanted?
Well, that's the big question. Like it's quite
honestly, guys, it's absolutely. I cringe now, Stephen. I cringe when I look at it because it's happening every week. It's been happening for quite some time. And this kind of came in. Was it Pelo Di Canio once or something? Remember, Goodison Park, cross into the box and all, caught the ball. There's somebody down on the pitch. Oh, fantastic. And it's kind of snowballed from there a little bit.
Too much sportsmanship.
It's an absolute embarrassment.
Yeah, but only when teams are winning do they use it.
I'm embarrassed when I say it.
Yeah, only when teams are winning 2 or 3-0 they use it to their advantage. At 0-0, it's nobody's advantage.
And the team is disadvantaged because you never get the ball back in the air of the pitch where you kick it out. Opposition teams, so it's not fair play because the opposition teams kick it 60 yards further down the pitch. So there's no fair play there whatsoever when the game is started again. So scrap the whole thing. Let the referee the game as he should do. And that's still, the rule hasn't changed. That's it. The rule is still the same.
I do think the Danish centre half who lets Hendrick just coast past him. I think
wasn't it? Yeah.
He would have had a lot of blame to take. Fair enough, Thomas Delaney, who gets a little bit confused and is like, oh God, I shouldn't have done that. Whereas the Danish defender had a good 3 or 4 seconds to actually see Jeff run right past him.
And the other fella then had to make up the ground.
Ger done great because Ger was the one who got across, actually put a little bit of heat on Jeff before he took the shot on.
By the way, Jeff should score. No, he should score.
Nah. I don't think the angle of approach that Ger was coming from, I don't think he could have squared it.
He should have scored,
Yeah, he should have scored. That would have been one of the most entertaining things we've seen in years, that he actually scored it there, just to see what actually would have happened.
Schmeichel would have been interesting, wouldn't it?
Oh my God, I would have been so happy just to see Schmeichel's reaction, just the anger.
I wanted to see Shane Duffy run 50 yards and just pick him up. Yeah. He was annoying me. He tried to get McLean sent off. He tried to get McLean sent off.
Yeah.
In the last few minutes, McLean shouldn't have kicked the ball away, in fairness, but he tried to get him sent off, no reason.
Yeah.
0-0 to get a life.
We will hear from Kasper Schmeichel a little bit later on in the show. He was speaking to Jamie Moore after the game, just to go through some of the back pages to move on to the football conversation a small bit, because Harry Arter was speaking to the media. We'll get to those in just a moment, but the Irish Independent are leading with Gaelic games this morning. They go with pride of the parish, and what a story this is. Dunboyne skipper hails inspirational former chairman Sean Cox as St. Peter's take glory in Meath. So Dunboyne, obviously county champions yesterday. The club of Liverpool fan Sean Cox, who's recovering from those awful injuries he sustained ahead of the Liverpool-Roma match earlier on this year. His son's obviously part of the GAA club in Dunboyne. It's just a fantastic story to see them do so well. They won the junior championship a couple of weeks ago, and the junior cup was actually brought in to Sean Cox at his bedside and stuff like that. So it's one of the good news stories from the GAA over the last couple of weeks. It's been all we've seen, I think, over the last few weeks has been kind of negativity when it comes to club GAA, but that's certainly one of the good news stories that we've seen. The Irish Times also go with a GAA lead in terms of a picture anyway. It's match winner Portlaoise to county title haul. I think that's their 11th title in 12 years at this point. Unbeaten start then for provinces, but things set to get tougher, says Jerry Thornley on the rugby. And O'Neill happy for Ireland to build an expansive style, says Emmett Malone. But the big story this morning in terms of news from the Ireland camp is Harry Arter. He was speaking to the written press after the game on Saturday night, specifically the daily newspapers, so we're only getting the quotes this morning. I never needed an apology. I never wanted a sorry. Arter breaks his silence on Roy Rowe. That's the lead in the Irish Examiner, but it is carried pretty much across all the papers. The Times Ireland edition, for example, going with the lead. Arter and Keane bury the hatchet. Ireland pair settle differences in phone call. So just to kind of go through some of the quotes that Harry Arter says in these comments to the written press, he says that the lads, aka his teammates, have all backed him up for what happened, what I have done, he says, in his row and his walking away from the Ireland camp temporarily. But he then says that there was no real need for an apology.
Apart from James McLean. Publicly on record saying he didn't agree with him.
Yeah, he did actually. That's very true. He said that last week.
Never speak on behalf of the group. I learned it as I went through professional football, particularly when I became a little bit older. Never make a statement on behalf of all the players within the squad, because in very few circumstances is everybody in agreement. Speak about yourself. Maybe speak about the majority of players, but to speak about the whole squad, for me, stay away from that, because invariably it's never true.
Yeah, he says he's been at Bournemouth for 8 years, and I can assure you that I've been criticised within those 8 years, and clearly it's never been a problem and never will be. It wasn't criticism, it was a conversation that happened, and me and Roy sorted it out, and that's all that matters. It's quite cryptic, and fair play to him, I think, for putting himself in front of the media to actually speak, because he could easily have walked through the mixed zone. So he wanted to get this off his chest, but there's still a lot unsaid there, I think, in the idea that it's been sorted out.
A bit of that hokey cokey, isn't
What do you want?
Yeah.
Do you want detail? We shouldn't be entitled to detail.
Sure, that's fair enough, yeah.
So let it go now.
I think,
Get on with it. Harry Arter should have turned up in the first place.
Do you think so?
Yeah, he should, unless he's criticised his daughters, kids, family, he should have turned up to play for the country.
Do you agree with that?
He's losing the cap.
Yeah, he's losing a
He's
cap.
losing his teammates. His teammates haven't got him for the game, but it's gone now.
Yeah, it's all over and done with now.
You disagree with me? Or are you going to agree, or what do you think?
No, I
you're
agree with you in
itching.
terms. I agree with you in terms of let's move on. He's saying he hasn't got an apology from Roy, but he was never going to get an apology from Roy. If it warranted an apology, Roy, I would imagine, would have given it pretty quickly over in the days after the initial argument was had. To suggest that Roy would make an apology like 2 months down the road was never going to happen. They've had a conversation. He's suggesting that they've buried the hatchet. Let's just move on. I know he's thrown in a bit of an after comment about the rest of the lads backing him. Again, there's kind of stirring the pot a little bit, but I think we're beyond it now. Put it to bed and move on.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. I do think, though, the exact conversation that they had on the phone is going to come out in a few years, like say if Harry Arter puts pen to paper in a book. But it does feel that there's sort of a full stop on this. We've heard from all the key parties involved, except for Stephen Ward. When Stephen Ward speaks, then the whole thing is officially done.
Stephen Ward has spoke. We heard it very clearly in his WhatsApp message.
There is that. But the WhatsApp message about the WhatsApp message, I guess, is what we're all waiting for. But
Be waiting a while, I reckon.
Yeah, I think we'll be waiting a while. I think, to be fair, from the chapter that we've put down over the last month or so, that element of things has been put to bed. One thing, though, that has been put to bed is the current situation with the Nations League. Are we going to be able to get a second seed? Well, it all depends on tomorrow night at the Aviva Stadium. And Bale Boost says the back of the Irish Daily Mail, for Ireland that is, as Real superstar misses Dublin trip. We were having this conversation on the radio yesterday. The Bale loss to Wales is probably a smaller impact than the Christian Eriksen loss to Denmark. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think it's fair, because I think you look at the Welsh team, but they can put the likes of Aaron Ramsey in particular, Joe Allen, players of that quality, even the younger players they have coming through. Brooks really impressed. In the previous Welsh game, which I watched. So they've got a fluid kind of football in style, Wales, albeit haven't been playing well since that the Ireland game. They've really kind of struggled a little bit and taken a bit of a beating, obviously, against Spain, and even the Denmark game, I don't know if you saw, away, struggled a little bit. They've lost Ampadu as well.
Yeah. It
was actually, although 17 years of age, very quickly has come kind of an integral part of the team, that kind of central midfield position. So you could argue, yeah, it's not as big a loss to Bale, but for me, it's probably a good time to be getting Wales. We've got to take advantage of it. We need a better performance than we showed the other evening. But I think it's a game we need to win, actually, by the looks of it, the way the group's going. If we're not going to finish bottom of the group, and we know the significance of that coming bottom in terms of the seeding for the qualifying for the European Championship. So it's almost a mentality, I think, going into the game to focus. Every game you want to win, I know, but some games you really kind of focuses the concentration. This really is a must-win game in terms of the context of the group.
Well, Martin O'Neill says that it's a part of a rebuild job, the nil-all draw on Saturday night. Is that something that you viewed as a necessary step, that we were in a process of rebuilding?
I think when you're inside the bubble and you suffered a couple of heavy defeats, and obviously the Poland game was a plus, but before that, obviously, concede 4 goals. I think you do, as a manager, try and reset and go again. I know he's been there 4 years, and I understand that, but after a defeat like that, and the performance from Saturday night was a solid performance, it was a structure that worked, in my opinion. It's the right formation. Yes, we can improve in certain pockets of areas to be better in possession, more so, for my opinion.
Yeah, I didn't think the structure worked in possession of the football, because we just couldn't get the ball up the pitch. We couldn't pass the ball up the pitch. It was as simple as that. We played two players up front on paper with Jeff and Shane Long, but Jeff, as we know, isn't a centre forward, so Jeff was dropping quite deep. He looked a little bit uncomfortable, to be honest with you, Stephen, for me in that position. I've seen him play there a couple of times. It's almost the number 10 just off the front. He doesn't look comfortable. He doesn't look comfortable with his back to goal on the half turn. Looks a lot more comfortable 15, 20 yards further down the pitch as an orthodox number 8 or even as a deep midfielder where he finished the game. So that kind of didn't help. He was getting detached from Shane. Shane is lone centre forward, was getting isolated. And we just couldn't get up the pitch. It was kind of long throw-ins, a couple of free kicks into the box for the majority of the game.
He looked totally a different player. When he went back into a deeper position, his body language got improved and he got on the ball. He had more touches on the ball from a deeper position than he did for the whole game in the last 20 minutes.
So in terms of the structure, if you're talking about the terms of the structure, in terms of in possession, the structure getting us from back areas of the pitch up high up the pitch now, because we weren't able to pass the ball up the pitch and we went back to front. At times Shane looked a little bit isolated. So for me, in possession of the football, unfortunately the structure didn't work. And actually out of possession, I thought we actually struggled in terms of putting pressure on the ball. I didn't think we were very efficient at winning the ball back, particularly higher up the pitch. I thought we looked a little bit disjointed at times.
Do we have to? Can we be able to sit a little bit deeper?
Well, I don't.
And have counter-attacking players. If we can get players into positions to be a little bit better when we win the ball back. So yes, I'm only going off Wolves here.
But I'd rather counter-attack. I'd rather counter-attack 30 yards higher up the pitch. If I want to win the ball back, I'd rather win the ball back 10 yards inside the opposition half rather than 5-10 yards outside their penalty box. Because at the moment, and we're winning a lot of ball on the edge of our penalty box. Because like you say, we drop in, we work hard, we try and make tackles, we win the ball back. But when you win the ball back 10 yards inside your penalty box, you got to get up the pitch. And what you have to do one or two things. You got to play 1-2 touch under pressure on the edge of your box and pass your way out, which we're not very adept at doing, or you have to go to look back to front early and somebody to make the ball stick and people to join in. And because Shane is so isolated, not just Shane, because the lone striker is so isolated, invariably that ball comes back as well. So dropping deep, I don't think we actually drop deep deliberately. I think we get pushed back. But when we get pushed back very deep into our half, Steve, we struggle to get up the pitch. So for me, it's about pressing the ball 30 yards higher up the pitch in the opposition half. But to do that, of course, you have to be structured, you've got to be organised, you've got to be in sync in terms of what you're doing. And I didn't quite think we were in sync the other night. I saw Shane, Jeff Hendrick explode out at times trying to press their two centre-halves.
But so other
get
people
played
aren't.
around, get played around, the ball getting popped into Delaney or Shoney in centre midfield. They look around and think, well, people aren't with me, then they get dispirited. So for me, it was we weren't quite in sync, even as willing as we were and as big hearts we wanted to go and press the ball. For me, we didn't do it very effectively.
Yes, I agree. But also, for the first time in a game, I never felt we were under that much pressure. We didn't concede. They didn't look like going to score a goal, which before playing against us, we looked like we were going to concede goals.
I think that's what he means when he says stopping the rot, wasn't it? That we had kind of we had plugged that.
Yeah,
leak.
but I also think we can be a bit more. We can be better out of possession. So when Robinson came on, he picked up little pockets to receive the ball, to be able to counter-attack.
But that's what you got, a natural centre forward now who's coming on the playing line. I think Shane enjoyed it when Callum Robinson came on because he was prepared to stay higher up the pitch and actually work in tandem with it. Jeff's natural inclination is to drop further away from Shane into an area of the pitch where he's actually more comfortable. So having two natural centre forwards on the pitch for the last kind of 20 minutes for me actually helped us a little bit.
But that's the thing, and we will get into that midfield battle very shortly, a little bit later on. Just one thing before I move into the rest of the newspapers. Like, I would say that your take on Saturday's game was quite positive, especially when you compare it to some of the stuff that's been written this morning and some of the other stuff that shared sports pages with you yesterday. Like, as players, when you were inside in the camp, was there always a sense that everybody outside, even after a 0-0 draw that could be viewed as a drab draw, people are a little bit too negative about this sort of thing? Like, do you think that the Ireland players at the moment are feeling quite happy about things and they will look at some of the stuff that's written this morning as literally unfair as to what they've done on Saturday?
I can only put myself in similar position. So from a winger or a fullback to a certain degree, playing inside like McLean did, inside like Christie did, what do you do? What can you do as a player? You got to put a shift in. You ain't comfortable there. I'd imagine James, in my head, would be more comfortable as a wing back, and Christie certainly as a wing back. So when you put him in there, you know what you're getting. You know you're going to get straight line closing down. You know they're going to. It wasn't really out of possession. It was more like Harry Arter, McLean, Christie. And it shouldn't be like that. How are you going to get out? There's too many straight lines. There's no pass on because they're pushing you because it's easy to push you because they're not in straight. There's no passes on. So we shouldn't
be surprised that we couldn't play our way up the pitch. Because as Stephen has suggested, when you're playing a little bit out of position, as sore as Christie was, he said he hadn't played it since he was 14. James McLean ended up there on the inside when Enda Stevens came on. It's not so much a problem out of possession because you drop into your area of the pitch and you're reasonably comfortable defending that area of the pitch. All your natural instincts take over. But when you win possession of the ball, that's when you feel a little bit out of your comfort zone. Because you're receiving the ball now in an area of the pitch where you're not comfortable, in a more congested area of the pitch, and that pressure comes a little bit quicker. You got to play in the half turn. When you're playing on the wing, you can see the whole pitch on your rings inside. good. It's a lot easier. It's a lot more different in there. So we shouldn't be that surprised. And it was interesting looking at the midfield three in the second half. At one point, Hardy Arthur playing that kind of deep midfield position. For me, that's not his best position at all. With James McLean left and Sordis Christie right. Probably three players for me operating there in a fundamental area of the pitch where they're not at the most comfortable.
No, and they all can't play together. They all can't start in the same Ireland team.
Yeah, so we shouldn't be. I certainly wouldn't be critical of them because, as Stephen's saying, the effort was there, the work rate was there, but that kind of cohesion in the team clearly isn't going to be there when you have players.
I'm not being critical of them. They've been asked to do a job, to go in there and do it. I think they've done a good job in terms of out of position, but they're not comfortable doing that. What
do you think of Hardy Arthur as a holding midfield player, Stephen? How do you see
it? Well, in that formation, when there's bodies around him, I think he's fine. I think Harry Arthur goes to ground too much for me. He gets too many yellow cards. So defensively, he ain't that strong. Because if you're better defensively, you don't go to ground. You don't have to go to ground.
Well, that's exactly it. That's a big that worries me. What Stephen said there, holding defensively minded central midfield player who sits in front of the back four screens and needs that kind of real kind of defensive mindset. View suggesting he goes to ground too easy, gives away too many tackles, gets too many red cards, hasn't got those natural defensive instincts. That's a massive worry for me for someone who operates in that area. Now, Pirlo used to play there for Italy, and Juventus is a totally different type of player, an actual quarterback type of player. But fundamentally, the player who sits in there needs those defensive attributes. Now, Hardy Arthur is a very good technical player for me. When I've seen him at his best, certainly in club football, he's played higher up the pitch as an attacking midfielder. When he gets in contact with the front three and gets around the opposition box, I get worried, and this is not disrespectful to Harry Arthur. I get worried when I see him sitting in a deep midfield position because I don't think he sees danger. I think he is rash. I don't think his recovery is good, and I don't think he makes good decisions in that area of the pitch from defensive point of view.
It depends on your opposition as well, how good they are. Which Denmark are obviously a good team, top 10 in the world. So you got to think that they've got a lot of good attacking players. Now he got booked early on, which doesn't help because you can't be aggressive. You can't do what you need to do. So, I probably would play Harry Arthur there because I don't think who else you can play there.
Well, you play somebody there who you don't trust, who picks up yellow cards, can't tackle.
Well, against the opposition, depends on the opposition you're playing against. Are they good enough on the number 10?
Any opposition for me, because to be honest, when he gets on the ball, Stephen, I think he's very competent on the ball, but I don't think he really hurts you with his passing from a deep position. I don't think he really breaks the lines with his passing.
Who would you play there?
Either.
Hendricks?
No, I play Sean Williams there. I play David Moyler there. Different types of players. David Moyler for his that kind of physicality. I think he has got that defensive mindset. I think he does make tackles. He does give good screen. Sean Williams for me can put his foot in, but he's more of a ball player. I think he's a more accomplished ball player than Hardy Arthur in that area of the pitch. I think he'll receive the ball and get you playing up the pitch, as we saw against Poland as well. Look, we got two games coming. We'll probably see one of them in the game against Wales. But going forward, if you're talking about horses for courses and round pegs and round holds, for me, I'm not convinced of that one either.
Yeah, cool. We will get your comments as well to the lads if you've got anything on that at Off The Ball or at Off The Ball AM. You can comment on the stream as well if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube. We will continue that analysis in just a moment, especially what you think about Cyrus Christie. We'll get into that shortly, and why Callum Robinson managed to change the game so much. That's all coming up shortly. Just to run you through the rest of the back pages this morning, the Herald goes with O'Neill's bailout. Huge boost for Boss Martin as Garrett flies back to Madrid. Also, St Vincent's knocked out of the Dublin Championship, Kenny. Champ stunned as Jude's into final. On the back page of the Irish Daily Star, it's "You are safe. FAI tell O'Neill his job is not under threat," while Pool's injury worries grow. Mo Salah went off injured for Egypt on Saturday. It's a big concern for Liverpool fans. Back page of the Mirror then is "It's good to talk. Roy Keane didn't need to say sorry. We had a good chat for the sake of the team, while Ireland's style is primitive." That's one of Denmark's stars, that is Thomas Delaney, saying that about Ireland, which is, I guess, fair enough if you're looking at it from one point of view anyway. The back page of The Sun is "I never needed Roy to say sorry. Art did not get apology," while Wenger warns boss Thierry Henry has taken over the course of the weekend as boss of Monaco. Back page of the Racing Post then is Spanish stroll. 3 Lions look vulnerable with key men missing in Seville. It's Spain against England in the Nations League at 7:45 this evening. And then a couple of the UK back pages. The Guardian goes with England as well. Strain game. Southgate, players are mentally fatigued. That's Dominic Fifield, who's also on the ground in Seville. And then finally, the Daily Telegraph goes rugby. Oh brother, it says, Vunipola gives England major injury scare. We'll be lording it over the English in our rugby slot with Alan Quinlan a little bit later on. Darren Cleary is in studio next with the sports news. But first, here's the Danish boss Uga Hareide with Raf Giallo. But before that, Kasper Schmeichel with Jamie Moore.
With the Denmark goalkeeper Kasper Schmeichel. Kasper, the last time you played against Ireland, you had a very good victory tonight, a scoreless draw, and Ireland kept a clean sheet. You had a couple of saves, as did Darren. What were your thoughts on the game overall?
We're slightly disappointed, slightly frustrated. I think it was quite obvious to see we were the better team today, but the better team doesn't always win. And you've got to be a little bit cynical and look at it, right, okay, we've come away from home and we've got a 0-0. We'll take that.
Did you face a different Ireland tonight than the one you faced last time, and what did you feel was different about them?
No, we basically came up against what we expected.
Okay, so the point of view from Ireland, they kept a clean sheet tonight. The last couple of times they played against Wales and against yourselves, they conceded a lot of goals. So did you feel they were a bit more defensively organised tonight?
No, like we played against them 11 months ago and they played exactly the same way, so they didn't do anything different.
What do you feel the reason was why they kept a clean sheet tonight as opposed to the last time when it didn't go so well for Ireland?
I just think our finishing wasn't quite there today. The ball didn't quite drop for us in that sense, but apart from that, we played a good game. I thought we deserved to win it, but football's not always like that.
What's your thoughts been on the Nations League overall, having played a couple of games in it now as opposed to friendly games?
Oh, it's brilliant. I mean, you want to be playing competitive games, and it gives every team an extra chance of qualifying, so I think it's a good idea.
Kasper, thanks a million.
Cool. Cheers, thank you.
Thank you.
From our point of view, the Cyrus Christie positioning in midfield was a surprise. What did you make of that? Did that surprise you as well?
I think, it did. Surprisingly, Ireland came very low and deep with the defence, but I think he put Christie on that side because he needed quicker feeds against Pione Sisto. Sisto was really good in the qualifier for World Cup, and I think Christie made a difference. So you have at least two fullbacks on that side, to handle Pione Sisto, and that's why I think that's why Christie played in there.
Mm-hmm. And obviously you were missing Christian Eriksen, which was a huge loss. He scored a hat-trick here in Dublin in November of last year. Tactically, what did you have to change to accommodate some of the other players that had to be brought into the squad?
No, we played in the same way as we always do, but we just put another man in Christian's role, and of course there's only one Christian Eriksen, and I think the team did okay. We had our chances, and it was hard to break down Ireland. They defended well, and they always do. And we're away from home, picking up 1 point, and we're still leading the group, and we have Ireland at home. So I think we're in a good position.
Uga Harrider there speaking to Raf at the Denmark Hotel there yesterday morning. I think you get a deep sense of satisfaction from the Danish after what happened on Saturday night. I mean, they were happy to come and get a 0-0 draw. To a certain extent, you could say Ireland were happy enough with a draw as well to just try and stop the rot. So everybody kind of went home happy, and 0-0 was inevitable in hindsight.
I got to be honest, I didn't go home happy. I'm not sure if the majority of people inside the stadium went home happy. That wasn't the sense I was getting from the energy inside the stadium. I think the Callum Robinson substitution gave us a little bit of impetus maybe for the last 15, 20 minutes of the game. But for me, Eoin, it's always performance for me. I always look at the performance in terms of where the progression is coming, and not so much. Clean sheet is great, and I think if there was one aspect of performance, how Roy suggested there, how Ireland defended on the edge of their box. Once we got pushed to the edge of our box, I don't think it was a decision he was saying that they decided to defend deep. I don't think it was a decision of ours to drop to the edge of our box and defend deep. I think we tried to come out, we just got passed around and got pushed to the edge of our box. But once we did, as always, generally speaking, we defend the edge of the box very well, cross into the box, we win our headers, win our tackles. I thought Kevin Long 1v1 down his side of the pitch, actually they defended very well. Lads kept a good shape, they work hard in and around the box, they're tenacious. So yeah, that was good, and it had to be good because the amount of possession they had, to say about 30 yards from our goal, Stephen, if Eriksen had been in that Denmark team,
it would have changed it completely.
And they had been finding him in around their box and those pockets. I doubt very much we would have had that clean sheet.
Darren, I'm so rude. You're very welcome to the studio.
Thanks,
you're just in the middle there. We will get into that. I promise, Kenny. You can go on a full analysis, in-depth thing in just a moment. I promise.
Sorry,
I promise
Darren,
you as well.
Slap down Owen's views, Kenny. We're all happy after the match. Yeah, it was great. It was brilliant. Kenny wasn't having any of that.
Darren, you made the right choice on Saturday. You didn't go to the match.
I watched the highlights. Yeah, and I was actually actually going to watch the whole thing back, but 6 minutes of highlights was enough of an endurance for me.
I'm surprised they got 6 minutes of highlights.
Yeah, they got 6 minutes of highlights out of it.
I'm actually quite surprised with how much there is to talk about a nil-all draw like that, given the way Ireland set up, given some of the aftermath, some of the comments this morning and stuff like that. It's as significant a nil-all as I can remember. No? People, it's just flat disagreement in studio?
No, listen, I don't think from an offensive point of view was exciting to watch. It wasn't. But I don't think Martin or the team will care, if I'm honest with you, in terms of they got a result. I know we should want to win the game, but
you've got to care, Stephen. I think when you don't create very few, if any, chances from open play, I think that's got to be a worry. You've got to care about that. If you're putting a system out there, and I've no problem with the system, generally speaking. I think we can work it. But whatever system you put out there, if you create little or no opportunities from general play, I think that's got to be a worry going forward.
I actually think Shane Long did well when he was isolated. He bought free kicks for us high up the pitch, as much as he could do. Really, when he was isolated for sure. So from that point of view, we've got 3 centre halves who are very physically. So when you do win free kicks, you are.
It's a sad state of affairs though, Stephen. If we're holding up a couple of free kicks with Shane Long, one is the kind of the highlights of the game.
We've never ever played through teams and been really fluent and breaking up teams. And when have we ever? Going back
I'm not necessarily playing through teams. I'm talking about getting the ball into the last third of the pitch, getting possession in the last third, and getting crosses, getting shots, getting opportunities, and building a bit of sustained pressure during the course of 90 minutes on the opposition team and asking a few questions of them. And we haven't been able to do that for quite a bit of time. That's the real worry for me going forward. And you can cling on to we kept the clean sheet. And I understand I'll be doing the same if I was a player. I'd be coming out great, clean sheet, we've turned the corner, circled the wagons, it's all positive, and absolutely I've no problem with that whatsoever. You've got to put a positive spin on things as a player. But from the outside looking in and trying to keep a neutral perspective on it as best we can, we're all supporters of the national team. It's a little bit of a word. There's frustrations there watching the team because that's not as good as we've got. In terms of the players we have, you can talk about championship, premiership players until the cows come home. But are we capable of doing more, performing better with the players that we have at the moment?
But particularly against the Denmark team without Christian Eriksen, you could make that argument. I do think, though, and David Snade was making this point in the show yesterday, that we perhaps get hung up on statistics like possession and things like that, whereas higher possession doesn't necessarily mean a higher level of performance or a higher level of
We've never had
easy on the eye.
Yeah, I never get caught up. I never get caught up in possession. But you trust your eye, what you're saying. Forget about the stats. You trust your eye and what you're saying on the stand, looking down on the pitch, and we've got to do better. We have to do better.
One stage I was doing the commentary and I actually started counting the passes we made because we hadn't had many.
And what was the highest number you got to?
Well, when we got to about 9 or 10, I went okay. I just let it go after that.
Back to the commentary.
But that in a way kind of shows you what the game is like. You're right. Your eye tells you whether you can do better, and of course we could have done better. But with Long, out wide with Keown in a defending point of view, one-on-one situations for 3 centre halves, they actually did very well, the back three.
Yeah, they certainly.
In terms of defending and short pace as well.
We do have tickets for tomorrow night. Just retweet the stream if you want to go along to Ireland against Wales. We've teed that up beautifully. Darren, what's going on?
Is the frustration though not the fact that not that we didn't score a goal or not that we didn't create too many chances? Like Liverpool went to a Champions League game a couple of weeks ago without having a shot on target, and they didn't get crucified for it. Is the problem not that it looks like this Ireland team doesn't have an offensive plan, a plan to score goals?
Perhaps. Like it's when you talk about Shane Long being isolated, I mean the Shane Long plan is there, but it's just probably not done with the right volume or with the right amount of help around Shane.
He looked a lot more comfortable, didn't he, with what's it called coming on?
Callum Robinson,
coming on, so
that'd be interesting. If Callum Robinson starts, I'd expect Sean Maguire potentially to start alongside him high up the pitch, because I think we need to find a pair. Now I'd like to see us play with a pair high up the pitch, whether we're playing 3-5-2 or even an orthodox 4-4-2. I personally probably lean towards the 4-4. I'd like to see us play with a natural width as well, and it's difficult at times to get that width with wing backs. To get pinned back when you get up the pitch, it's hard to get that natural width. In 4-4-2 you can get your full backs combining with your wingers high up the pitch, and you've got your front two as well. That doesn't mean you have to play through the thirds to get up to them. You can go back to front a little bit early, which I have no problem with whatsoever. But for me, when we're at our best, and traditionally when we've always been at our best, even back to when I played, it was always getting that bit of natural width in the team. Wingers, full-backs, you played in those areas, coming on the inside, full-backs getting on the outside, crosses into the box. And we've got players who will attack the ball into the box, Stephen. Good heads of the ball, brave. James McLean attacking the back post. Jeff Hendrick arriving from late from a midfield position, that's when he's at his best. He's a good finisher, believe it or not. He's probably lost a bit of confidence. So I think we have a way of playing which actually best complements our players, but we haven't been able to get there.
Yeah. Darren, what's going on?
Yeah, we're talking about starting spots and that Nations League game. Matt Doherty will be hoping to make his second international appearance in the competition, having made his debut in the Dower draw with Denmark on Saturday. The Dubliner has been in flying form for Wolves this season. He played a key role in their Premier League promotion and he's nailed down a starting spot too. He was also Premier League PFA Fans Player of the Month for September. Now, manager Martin O'Neill was happy with how he acquitted himself. He was also quick to pile the pressure on his second favourite right back.
I've got obviously a lot of faith in him as a player. He's athletic, he's strong. And even though he doesn't always play at Fulham, he always keeps himself in really good condition. Really good condition. He's got personal trainers, personal coaches. He loves the football. He's played fullback for me. He's played wing back. He's played right wing as well too. And he played in there. And I thought he dealt with things very well indeed. Also, of course, he would help young Doherty as well too, because I thought that was important. That Sisto playing in that side might cause us a few problems, and I think that Cyrus was basically the first one out to him most of the time, and I thought he dealt with that. Obviously there's a lot of expectation on him, I think because he is doing fine at Wolves. He's just getting used to the Premier League. They've gone up and they've had a splendid start, and he has done well, and I think overall, you know, he didn't do too badly at all, and I'm sure he can improve.
Scotland unable to bounce back from their defeat in Israel. They were beaten 3-1 at home by Portugal. That was a friendly last night. England take on Spain in Sevilla this evening. Northern Ireland play Bosnia-Herzegovina in Sarajevo. Well, the Arsenal defender Laurent Koscielny has retired from international football. The Frenchman missed the World Cup through injury and says his country's success at the tournament did more psychological damage to him than his Achilles problem did. Koscielny claims he was forgotten about and only heard from Didier Deschamps once during his recovery. He says the manager phoned him to say happy birthday. While in Cork hurling, Imokilly retained the senior title after a convincing win over Middleton at Porky Queeve on Sunday. Cork captain Seamus Harnedy got 1-6. Paddy O'Sullivan netted 2 goals. It finished Imokilly 4-19, Middleton 1-18. Meath football, Dunboyne won their first senior football championship since 2005 at Park Talton in Navan. They ran out 111 to 9 winners over Summerhill. Road made it 3 Offaly senior championship titles in a row. They cruised to a comfortable win over Ferban. They had 11 points to spare in the end with a 118 to 10 victory at O'Connor Park in Tullamore. Portlaoise's dominance continued. They won the Laois senior football title for the 11th time in 12 years. They defeated O'Dempsey's by 216 to 113. Clonagale are celebrating after beating neighbour St Bridget's to land the Roscommon title at Dr Hyde Park. They won on a scoreline of 415 to 112. Mount Leinster Rangers have been crowned Kings of Carlow senior hurling for the 8th time in their history. They recorded a 310 to 113 victory over St Mullins. In Kerry, Dr Crokes into their 3rd county final in a row. They recorded a 9-point win over Karen O'Reilly's. Colin Cooper came on at half-time. He only played 15 minutes before being black-carded. Well, there'll be a new name on the cup after the holders were dumped out of the Dublin Senior Football Championship. St Jude's will play Kilmacud Crokes in the final after beating 3 in a row, chasing St Vincent's on a scoreline of 211 to 8 points. These Stillorgan men booked their spot in the final after beating Ballyboden St Enda's on Saturday.
Good stuff, Darren. Let's hear from Cyrus Christie. He was speaking to Jimmy Moore after Saturday night's match.
Yeah, lastly, I know the heavy man of the match trophy is actually in your hand at the moment. Nice Waterford crystal there. So just very lastly, you mentioned about different people talking about you. Spoke to Matt Doherty, same with him. He's made his first start tonight. Seamus Coleman is the captain. They all play in a similar position to you. What have you made of the whole debate around the position and you as opposed to Matt, as opposed to Seamus and so on? Because clearly you add a lot to the team as well. But you know, some people have felt that maybe Matt should be playing, yet you've been in the team more.
Yeah, listen, at the end of the day, that's what everyone says. You know, I think I've had it since I've stepped into the Ireland team. You know, everyone's always had different question marks over my head and whether I want to play for Ireland or whatever it is. And you know, I've turned up to every trip that we've had. I've put 110% every time I've put on the jersey and representing my country. And you know, I'm fully proud to represent that. I think some people kind of mistake me for being, with my mannerisms, you know, I'm very laid back and I just like to keep myself to myself. I don't get flustered by too much. And you know, obviously everyone at the end of the day is going to compare me, Seamus and Matt to each other, but at the end of the day we're all different players. We're completely different players, and you know, Matt's had a fantastic season so far. Everyone knows about Seamus. So, you know, at the end of the day we're all fighting for the shirt, and you know, I think the manager probably touched on that, like, you know, it's 3 right backs that are playing in the Premier League, and you know, he obviously probably wants to find a way to probably get us all in the team, and So it's one of them. All the players are playing in the same position, and that's inevitable. It happens at every club you're at. There's going to be people fighting for that position, but I think it only benefits us and it makes competition healthy.
Yeah, there's certainly logic there in terms of getting all your Premier League players into the starting team. When they're all right backs, it is quite unusual to move one of them to centre mid.
Yeah, but I think there was sound tactic. If the reasons were he was concerned about Sisto's presence, Sisto likes to come onto the inside from that wide position, and when he does that, you want someone that area of the pitch who's got a natural maybe defensive mindset, has got good legs, who maybe can deal with that. So if that was a kind of tactical reason, I've no problem with that. I think there's sound reasons there. I think the problem comes maybe, like we say, on the turnover of possession, when you have to go and get on the ball and influence the game in that area of the pitch when you're not comfortable. That's not easy. I think the suggestion was he probably learned about an hour before kick-off that he was playing in that central midfield position. But that would have spooked me, to be honest.
He hasn't played there since he was 14.
Yeah, if a manager was going to put me in a position which was alien to me, I'd like to know that a couple of days before. In fact, I'd like to actually see it out on the training pitch. I'd like to actually go through a couple of sessions in that position on the training pitch, just get a little bit of a feel for it, just to give me a little bit of confidence going onto the pitch.
He might have.
He might have, yeah. The suggestion there.
Well,
the suggestion that
confirming the team.
Yeah.
And playing in a shape during the week. Martin, he might put you in there.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to tell you.
Okay.
Well, in my opinion, I'd rather know too. I'm sorry, I'm the same boat as Kenny. That I'd rather know I'm playing there 2 days ago, but he hasn't said he hasn't trained in there. So he might have trained in there and done the job from there.
But that said, I watched about 15 minutes of the second half. I thought physically he was gone. I saw him running a recovery run. He was really struggling. I thought, bloody hell, he's really struggling physically here. But fair play to him. He kept with it, kept his defensive shape, really wholehearted, and actually broke forward a couple of times late on. He got himself into an orthodox, say, right winger's position, put a great ball into the back post once. Ironically, got himself in probably a more familiar position down the right hand side, a bit closer to the touchline. So put a great shift in for the team. And like I said, I would never talk Cyrus Christie down, because when he's put on the jersey, as he suggested there, he's never let us down.
No, I find it remarkable how well he did. Like, it's fair enough saying that, okay, say Matt Doherty was pushed up to, say, a right winger or something like that. Even then, suddenly playing in the half turn is a very complicated thing. But moving a player in from a right full back, which is his position for Fulham, into a central midfield position, suddenly the sideline is taken out of your grasp. You don't have that protection anymore. You must feel like you're in open water. Like, I find it remarkable how easily he managed to take to that.
I say take to that. Defensively, he was excellent. He never really dropped the shoulder and went past anybody. If anything, he cut Matt Doherty's space out a couple of times where he ran from inside to outside. Normally Matt Doherty plays balls infield and then runs outside.
It runs into the space.
So he managed his space a couple of times where then you've nowhere to go.
Yeah.
But he did do well when he went out wide second half near the end. He hung a great ball up at the back post.
I think the interesting one is accommodating these players into the, how do we get them into the team. Obviously he's put Soares into more of a central midfield position. I think there's an argument there for saying Matt Doherty playing as a right wing back or Seamus. In this particular system with three defenders, there's an argument potentially for Cyrus Christie as a right sided three defender. I mean, he's a natural he's a natural defender anyway, so he could occupy that position. He's a good athlete. He gets isolated 1v1, he can deal with it. And in possession, we're talking about getting the ball back to front, good quality delivery, people who can step from into central midfield positions, actually commit people. He's very comfortable on the ball. So for me, if there's an argument for Cyrus Christie coming into the team in any position apart from the right wing back, it's actually as one of those three central defenders on the right, potentially right hand side of Shane Duffy. We got Richard Keogh there, who's an absolute warrior, no problem with that. But Cyrus Christie a little bit different, more comfortable on the ball, and maybe could offer us more in possession, taking us forward high up the pitch. So that'd be kind of an interesting dynamic going forward.
All three that could play there. Matt Doherty could play there.
Even Seamus
could play there.
Right of a three, yeah.
A bit like Kyle Walker does for England in the back three.
Because that was the comparison, wasn't it, when Matt Doherty became a real factor in this international campaign. The Kyle Walker comparison was made because, to be honest with you, we were all saying Kyle Walker, he's not going to make it on the right of a tree, and he did all right there during the summer. So is it sort of an element of where Kevin Long, Shane Duffy and Richard Keogh are maybe too similar, and that you need something a little bit different in that back three?
Well, I think ideally those two wide defenders in the back three ideally wanted to be competent defenders, but also have the ability to step forward and influence the game. Now, I wouldn't have been able to do it. I wasn't good enough on the ball to do that. But I look at the likes of Cyrus Christie and even Seamus Coleman. People look at Seamus Coleman, 5'6", he can play as a centre half, but playing in the back three in international football, very different to club football. Don't have to deal with too many balls stood up to the back post where you're competing through the air.
Why is that? Because of a lack of quality in midfield, pinging those balls over.
It's just how the football's played on the international stage. Possession based, generally played in front of you. So if you have good defensive attributes, good positional sense, good 1v1, you're quick, which Seamus Coleman is. For me, Seamus Coleman could play right of a 3 with Matt Doherty in a right wing back position, Cyrus Christie. So you could actually accommodate 2 of those 3 players for me in this particular system that we're playing at the moment. I'd actually like to see that, even the Wales game going forward. We know what Richard Keogh gives us, Kevin Long, John Egan, those type of players, very much defence minded. But someone like a Cyrus Christie or Seamus Coleman won't be available, I understand that. In those 3 central, they're not central defensive positions, for me it'd be just interesting to see whether that gives us a little bit more going forward. We got another player who's comfortable in possession and can give us a little bit more something in possession.
I think when you step out from the back, you need then your Christie position that he played in at the weekend to be a very good technical football, because they're coming into his space. He needs to be able to make space for himself to receive the pass from the right centre half.
Can I ask you, why did Callum Robinson make such a difference when he came on? Was it to do with the structural shift he brought, or was it to do with the individual brilliance he brought?
I looked at his closing down, for instance. So when we were out the ball, which we were for large periods, he closed down and he did a shift for the team, but he was also in a position to receive the ball. And when the ball was going long to Shane Long, it was a natural reaction for Robinson to go into certain areas that Shane knew he was going to go into. Where if you look at Hendricks, it would have been like me. I'd been running like heck to try and win it, but I didn't really know where I was going to win it. Where Robinson had a knack of going.
A natural centre forward.
Yeah. Can you learn that? Is that something that he just has like that, or is there something that you
No, you can't, because that's his natural position, Robinson. He knows exactly whether he's playing as 9 or 10. Okay, maybe I'll go here for the ball. Okay, actually looks like it's going to drop down to Shane. Short, I won't run long. I'll receive it off him, then we go again. What he did was, he was fresh to the game. He has a bit of pace. He went past 1 or 2 players, which enabled our then central midfielders to get in the box and make runs. We didn't have
himself 1v1 with their defenders close to the touchline when he first came on. Quick shuffle the feet, a little bit of acceleration, got beyond them, cross into the box. And as Stephen suggests, he's just making natural runs. It'll flick on from Shane. He picked one up. He was working off the shoulder to centre halves for balls in behind, where Jeff was a little bit reluctant, wants to come the other way. Moved well over the way. Looks a good athlete, Stephen. You know what I mean? So that potentially is a good option for us going forward. Hopefully we'll see more of it.
Do you start him the next day?
And again, this is where, as a sub, he has that impact because he's fresh. We can't expect him to be like that all the time from the start of the game, because everyone's fresher, everyone's closing down quicker. When he came on, people are tired. So pretty much when I came on, I used to run the legs off everyone because everyone was shattered, and I looked better than what I was.
But even still, those things that we're talking about, they're evident whatever part of the game it is. And I agree with you. I definitely start him against the Wales and put another up alongside, and possibly as well as his club mate Sean Maguire wouldn't be a bag thing. I know people saying his lack of injuries, maybe give him if we're going to give Sean Maguire 45 minutes, 60 minutes, put him on from the start. When the game's at its most competitive in that part of the game, and let's see how those 2 players, natural centre forwards for me, operate as a pair high up the pitch.
What are you changing for tomorrow night then, other than what you just mentioned there? So in an ideal world, you've got Cyrus Christie coming into the back 3, perhaps Kevin Long a little bit unlucky, or not Kevin Long, Richard Keogh a little bit unlucky, but he's getting benched from what I can gather here. Callum Robinson is in. Are they your only 2 changes?
No, for me, Sean Williams or David Moylan, that if we're trying to play the same system, Sean Williams or David Moyler in that holding midfield position. I think Sean Williams, off the back of what we saw in the second half against Poland, let's have a look at him over the course of 90 minutes for those kind of ball playing attributes which he has. But apart from that, I'd like to see Jeff a little bit deeper if he's going to start in that number 8 position, those advanced positions, which is the most comfortable. He's a little bit deeper, he can go and actually join in, play.
He said that himself actually, that's where he feels most comfortable, because that's where he was for the Euros, and that's why I guess the lack of personnel though at the moment isn't helping him. Can we play another advanced 8? Basically, that's going to be of that standard.
Well, we can. Well, Callum O'Dowd is Callum O'Dowd is the one for me, actually, of the past couple of games. He's a natural winger. I think he can affect the game wide, but he's come inside the last couple of games and shown me enough, Stephen, particularly against the USA second half, playing alongside Jeff with a sitter behind him, that he can break for it. And he's real pace.
Okay.
When he can motor with and without the ball. When he gets his head down and drives at people, he really forces the opposition back. So Callum O'Dowd, Jeff Hendrick, one of those lads behind that we've spoken about. Robinson up front with Sean Maguire, that type of thing. Take your pick of the wing backs, and obviously maybe a change. John Egan potentially come in the back 3, Darrell Lennon, those type of things. For me, that's absolutely fine. But they're for me players that look comfortable in all those areas of the pitch. The 2 up front, Williams sitting there. We've got a natural kind of ball player who can get on the ball, give us a little bit of balance to the other two number 8s that we have in there. So that for me looks a little bit more balanced potentially than what we finished with the other evening.
Brian Kerr said the other night that he doesn't think fans will keep showing up to watch Ireland playing on the back foot against middle-ranked teams. Do you agree with that?
The top 10 team is Denmark.
Are they top 10?
They're 10th in the world.
Are they, right?
Scandinavia. No, do you know what, Stephen? What we can do better. Well, it is very difficult to say we got to make more passes, but that's not easy. I understand that. But what we can do better, we can go hunting the ball higher up the pitch. That's when we're at our best, when we're closing the ball down.
You disagree with that?
Don't disagree with it. I think our centre halves proved that they're capable of defending one-on-one situations the other night for sure. So we can press higher. But if we are deeper, have we got a plan to counter-attack?
Sure.
So let's not get deep to begin with. That's my point. Let's not end up deep. Let's get our back four on the halfway line. Let's get pressing them 30 yards higher up the pitch. Let's be switched on. Let's be organised. We understand what we're doing. Let's go after the ball in sync. And if we win the ball back, Stephen, 10, 15 yards inside our half, we have a great chance to get to the edge of their box quickly. At the moment, we're winning the ball 5 yards outside our penalty box. We've got to travel another 60, 70 yards to get to the edge of their penalty box. And we're not managing to do it at the moment.
Without explosiveness.
Exactly.
Positions.
So take our game 30, 40 yards higher up the pitch, more compact, and let's go after teams higher up the pitch, and that'll energise the crowd and that'll get them more involved in the game, and we're actually good at it. It's one of the things we're actually good at.
It's very true. There's a couple of comments coming in. Peter Fry on Periscope says Robinson was brilliant what we saw of him. Patrick Delahunt on Facebook saying more of the same against Wales, I reckon, keeping it tight and always hoping to nick it from a set piece or counter. Sigh, says Patrick. David on YouTube says, I think we need to be realistic. As an international squad, we haven't got a lot of world beaters, and I feel draws will build stability. It's not ideal, but it's better than being spanked by other nations. David Lynch then on YouTube, another 0-0 draw, and more than likely another 0-0 draw on Tuesday. How can you qualify for tournaments if you can't win games? And then Chris Burgess on Facebook saying, what are the thoughts on Shane Long? Is he really good enough to lead the line? Works hard, yes, but reality is he is not going to get goals. We need to give others a chance to prove themselves, ? Do we drop Shane Long?
No, but we have had unlucky with injuries. Sean Maguire's got to pick up when he's had real momentum. He's just got injured at the wrong time for him, so he's coming to put pressure on Shane, no doubt. There's 2 or 3 in behind him are doing the same thing. McGoldrick's had a nightmare with injuries 2 years and
Scott
had
Hogan's
an argument.
the same. Scott Hogan injuries this year, hasn't played at Aston Villa. I'm a huge fan of Shane, always have been. I've never held him up as a prolific goal scorer. He never will be. That's not why he's in the team. But I don't think he's an absolute given. I'd have to say that, and that's why I'd like to see a partnership with Robinson, whoever it is, Maguire, Hogan, whoever that is, and let's just have a look at it. Shane has been brilliant in terms of carrying the burden by himself at times, high up the pitch. But in terms of more of a natural partnership, people who can link up, play off each other, have that little bit of telepathy, I think we've got to be prepared to look beyond Shane potentially going forward, because he's not going to be able to play forever.
Well, he's 30 as well, yeah. He's on the wrong side now. He's got 3-4 years left maximum. So we need to get bodies in behind him. We need someone to come along. I think Sean Maguire is the one. I think he showed a great attitude in diversity in terms of a couple of injuries he's had. He's really, you always know by social media what kind of mood he's in. He stayed positive. Went to the gym, he's done things that you have to do when football's not going for you, and I think hopefully he'll come good for Ireland.
Yeah, it does seem like a very convenient excuse to just drop Shane Long at this point, when it's clearly a system that's just not geared in his favour. Like the odds are stacked against him when it comes to pretty much.
I think a lot of the play. If you'd ask a lot of the centre forwards in the squad at the moment, who would you like to play? Sean Maguire, Scott Hogan, even Callum Robinson, who would you like to play alongside? I think they'd all say Shane.
Yeah.
And the reasons for that is he makes things stick. He wins his fair share of flick-ons. He runs the channels in behind, so he stretches his team that way. So that's the type of player for me that you want. You feel as if you're a centre forward, you may be a goal scoring player. You think, I want to play with that. He'll carry the burden from you a little bit. I can play off that. So that's a great foil for a centre forward to play alongside that type of kind of wholehearted, unselfish player.
He'd like a player too to play with him, I think, as well.
Yeah.
Shane, I think he always enjoyed playing with Tyler, my brother, at certain times when he was at his peak a certain.
And I think it's the right way to go. People are saying, no Robbie Keane. We know that we haven't got a Robbie Keane. So if you're making the argument for me that we're not as strong as we have been high up the pitch, that's more of an argument for playing the pair up there.
Yeah. Right.
You know, so they can kind of share the burden. So they can share the burden between them as a pair, rather than being isolated high up the pitch. That's a difficult shift for the centre forward in international football at times.
Just one final point on this before we leave it. Like, it's obviously been reported in the press this morning that Martin O'Neill and Roy Keane are safe. There has been some suggestion that it's D-Day for them tomorrow night, particularly if we had lost.
Who said that? Put him on the spot. I know, Dan, wasn't it?
Was it? Was Dan?
Dan, I think it was, yeah.
Was Dan saying it?
I don't get that. I don't get that impression, to be honest with you.
We were having a conversation ourselves, to be fair. Like, we were all saying it, in fairness. We can all...
I think if we got beat heavily, there would be massive pressure. And I probably still, if we go and lose 4 or 5-1...
I agree. A bad defeat against Wales, the same against Denmark, off the back of the Welsh result. Yeah, I think certainly that would heap pressure, but I don't sense that Martin's under any pressure. You don't get that impression from up above. John seems to be pretty happy with the situation there. He seems pretty calm about it. So no, I'm not thinking in those terms whatsoever. I'm just pretty much focused on the team, the players we have available to us, and the performance levels that we're getting out of the team at the moment, and how we can improve.
Yeah, I think the attitude and the organisation from the last day will be a starting point for the team. Can we improve on that tomorrow night?
Yeah, I would be sort of the view that things are looking up a small bit. Like Saturday night, and it's not just in terms of the clean sheet. I'm putting all my chips on the fact that the last 15 minutes was really encouraging, and that the management might look at that and say, well, listen, there is still that spark there.
I think we can improve. I think we can, against weaker teams, we can put in a right side attacking centre half.
Yeah.
Steps out that enable us to get up the pitch a bit more. We can put another centre forward up beside Shane to enable ourselves to get more possession on the counter attack. So there is positives to take.
I'm always optimistic, because when I look at that performance the other night, if that was the best we've got, if that was the best we can offer, I'd be worried. But I think there's more to come. I think there's more quality within the squad. I think we can get more out of the team than what we've seen, certainly over the previous couple of... I'd probably say maybe the last 12 months. I said there probably has been one performance there on the last 12 months that you've thought, bang, what a good performance. In possession, out possession, that was really impressive. We're really happy with that 90 minutes. We haven't really seen that for quite some period of time. But I think it's in us. But I think it's in us. There's more to come, and the challenge of management coaching is just to tap into that and draw that out.
So when Eamon Dunphy is writing the start today, calling it embarrassing nonsense, you don't exactly go along with that?
No, I don't. Well, you can frame it as you want. I wouldn't call it embarrassing nonsense. No, just be. Yeah.
Go like.
No, but I think it's frustrating. Probably frustrating is the word that I use, because you sense there's more there. There's more there within the individual quality, the kind of collective there. We can get more out of that group. We need to do that. We need to do it quickly, because, like I said, bottom of this group, Stephen, is going to have consequences in terms of that. The qualifying pot going forward in December. That's going to make it far more difficult for us in terms of qualification for the European chance. You know how important that is with the games to be played in Dublin.
Yeah, like, just when I kind of look at the overall picture of the Nations League, like, first of all, the Nations League is based on a meritocracy. It's like, you look at Gibraltar winning at the weekend. It's based to put teams like that up against teams of a similar level. You look at England against Spain tonight, it's a cracking fixture because they're of a similar level. Like, this idea that we're kind of an inferior team to Denmark, even with Christian Eriksen, doesn't actually hold itself too much in truth. Like, they've been seated alongside us with Christian Eriksen fit. Wales have been seated alongside us with Gareth Bale fit. We have them both at home this weekend. Both of those players are missing. And you throw in Ethan Ampadu onto the injury list as well. Like, is there an attitude problem here that we should be holding a little bit more, not just a little bit less inferiority, but we should be holding more superiority when it comes to our view of these other nations that are rolling up to Dublin this week?
Yeah, there certainly shouldn't be an inferiority complex. I don't buy too much into, well, we're seeded, 30, 40, 50, they're fifth, so we've no right to expect to go onto a football pitch and compete.
We're both in the same division.
That's what I'm talking about. So I don't buy into what. So I look at that Danish team the other night, I think, decent team, some decent players, competent players, technical players, but don't particularly frighten me. And in that last kind of 15, 20 minutes of the game, when we pushed a little bit, Callum made a bit of an impact, we got a little bit more possession, high up the pitch, managed to put one or two crosses into the box. All of a sudden, they didn't look as calm, as composed as they had been for the previous hour. We just weren't able to get at them and really ask those questions. So again, we certainly shouldn't be inferior, certainly not superior in terms of our performances probably over the last period of time. But have a little bit of inner confidence within us that if we can tap in, get the maximum out of what's available to us, for me, we can compete against any nation in the world.
I'd like us as a team to get after Wales a little bit and play a little bit high up the pitch with the same formation.
You were talking about dropping off to the edge of the box 10 minutes ago.
Against Denmark, there is a lot of scar tissue there, let's be honest about it, and we defend as well on the night.
Get higher though. If you're a little bit worried, I learned that, Stephen, as a player. Take a step forward. The more worried you get, the more you're a little bit unsure of yourself. Take a step forward rather than a step back.
Lads, we've had a comment in this morning describing you as a married couple.
Oh, we could kill each other, trust me. But we love each other too, so it's all right.
Love's a strong word.
Great stuff. Brilliant analysis as always, lads. You're going to stick with us. We're going to be turning our attention to rugby. Remember, if you want to go to Wales tomorrow night, retweet the stream. There's a couple of free tickets there for a couple of our viewers and listeners. Alan Quinlan's up next, but before that, it's the man of the moment. It is Leinster's James Lowe. He was man of the match on Friday as Leinster trounced Wasps.
I don't do too much. I was telling Jonathan in the change room, like I kind of just stand out there and hopefully they pass me the ball. You know, like it's not. It's nothing special. It's nothing out the gate, you know. Like I just pass it when I pass it and try run, you know. Bit tired, sorry lads. I'm bloody been a big day. No, I'm really enjoying my time here. Issa just messaged me, man. Like he's still watching. Thought he'd left us and bloody pushed us to the side, but you know he's still there, and he was a huge influence last year. We lost a big part of the team and the culture, and boys have stepped up and really filled his shoes, you know, like it's like we haven't missed a beat since he left, and everyone thought it was the bloody world was over. So now I've settled in well, and everyone's been really welcoming. Got a good foreign group. We're going to some lemon silly paint thing tomorrow, you know, all the partners and a few of the boys. So now we're going to enjoy this weekend and really look forward to another huge challenge over in France.
Man of the match, James Lowe there, speaking in the aftermath of Leinster 52, Wasps 3 in the Heineken Champions Cup. It was back at the weekend. Great win for Munster as well, which we'll get to in just a moment. But before that, calling all students, we've teamed up with Vodafone X to fuel your passion for sport by giving you the chance to join Team Off the Ball for a week. You'll get to see what happens behind the scenes of a show, attend a press conference, help report at a match, and even feature as a co-host of a show. If that wasn't enough, you'll also receive an iPhone 8 with a year subscription to Vodafone X Sport, giving you access to 7 dedicated Sky Sports channels. Be in to win. Submit your demo tape and details to offtheball.com/Vodafone X. So we are going to start with Munster Extra 10. Munster 10 is how it finished on Saturday evening in Sandy Park. Rory O'Connor this morning. Alan, you're very welcome, by the way. Thank you. I keep forgetting to introduce people.
I didn't know who he was when he came. You know, I'm glad you did introduce him.
People at home were just thinking it was Darren Cleary still sitting there. Extra 10, Munster 10. Rory O'Connor actually, in the paper this morning, which you actually have in front of you, says that Munster out-chiefed the Chiefs, which I think is a pretty good way of putting that result.
Yeah, I think before the game, I think there was a lot of pessimism about going over to Exeter and Munster performing. I think the concern was their away form. They'd lost 3 away this campaign so far, Glasgow, Cardiff and Leinster last week. Vast improvement against Leinster in the Aviva, and you know, when you're going away to a team that has got 29 points out of a maximum of 30, you're missing Conor Murray, you're missing Chris Farrell, Jaco Taute, Keith Earls pulls out just before the game. There's concerns there, you know, even with a full strength team, and Leinster showed last year it's a difficult place to go, albeit they got the win there. But I think it's different. European rugby is different, and the Premiership sometimes I think is hyped up a little bit too high, and Europe just goes up another couple of notches. There's some very good teams in England, there's no doubt about that, but Europe is just a different beast. It's like cup rugby, and there's a real physicality, passion, energy, and Munster can just switch on that passion and that energy for Europe, and they lacked a bit of quality and clinical touch at times.
Yeah.
I thought the effort level was incredible. To play against the wind in the first half, and then just defend the way they did, control the game and perform with the enthusiasm and the energy they had was just remarkable.
Yeah, the wind was crazy. Like, you talk about European rugby being a different kettle of fish to league rugby. Rugby in general, a different kettle of fish to soccer at the weekend, lads. I mean, it was when you talk about the excitement of the rugby as opposed to the excitement of the Aviva. I know, Alan, you were saying that before you came on air, that it was just a different gravy altogether.
Yeah, well, look, it's when you're playing that in that competitive environment like that, it's... For us as rugby players, I think it's all about physicality. The soccer is definitely more technical and tactical and stuff like that. But if you don't turn up in rugby with particularly in those European games or test matches, and you're not physically right and mentally right for the physical side of the game, you're in big trouble. You can have a very skillful side who fall off tackles, they're a bit soft in the contact area, and a lesser quality team can beat them very easily in rugby. And we've seen that so much. So I think the European Cup, the Heineken Cup, is a different level. It's an exciting week for players, and I think the Irish provinces have done fantastic in it.
I think it's interesting the point you make about the energy inside the stadium, whether it's Munster or particularly Munster and Leinster, and particularly when they play particularly the high-profile games, how the players kind of feed off that. And I know to an extent you have to block that out, but it's very hard to. And I think generally players kind of use that energy inside the stadium. It does. It energises you. Now, whether you're on the back foot, you defend from a defensive point of view, you're blown. Gives you that little bit extra, even in terms of like drawing you up the pitch. The crowd actually, literally, you feel as if they're pushing you up the pitch as well. Now we haven't
momentum, Kenny, isn't it? Because look, even for Munster in the last couple of years ago, the crowds dwindled a little bit. The atmosphere was quieter, and you know, I was kind of talking about it, and people say, well, the players have to create something for the crowd.
One feeds the other. It's a bit of both, I think.
But
isn't
I think, yeah, it's.
But it helps.
I'm
When I say
kind
from a
of
player's
divided on that
perspective,
because you know, some fans should turn up to try and get into the game as well and give them a lift. But we know if we're sitting in the stand, I was at the Denmark game last year. It was a crucial qualifier for a World Cup. Shane Duffy scores. I never had experienced the energy and the crowd, and in all my matches, like I won't say never, but it was just an incredible moment. With like I've been on the field and obviously when we won European Cups, but just to be in the crowd and go, wow, the energy, the atmosphere, it just went through the roof.
Sport lovers though.
So soccer can do that, absolutely. Yeah,
it's different sports. Like this time of the year, you get a buzz because if I normally am going to games, but if you don't and you stay at home, you have a rugby match on, and then followed by a soccer match, and
but the GAA do it as well, don't they? Limerick this year, or you know, you get a great Croke Park full All-Ireland final. I know the football was different because Dublin are so dominant, but that hurling final was incredible. It's on a knife edge. That's the atmosphere you're talking about. But look, it's not always like that for rugby. You know that.
Flows, like I mean, like
there's
in
some boring
years.
rugby matches too, and the crowds don't get in. But the thing about European rugby and the Heineken Cup, we have such an affinity with it. The Irish provinces, we get excited by it. The players love it. Honestly, as a player, it was just a different week.
Yeah.
Like Leinster are on a different level now. And I was watching at the weekend, I'm saying, can anybody challenge them? The only team that I can see in there that possibly could challenge them at the moment, on paper, after round one, is Saracens. They look very, very strong and physical and a lot of options in attack. But Leinster are just, we were chatting, Kenny, you were saying it to me this morning, they're just a different level. They blew Wasps away, so clinical, and such a hunger to get up, get a score and get the ball again. They just all want the ball. And you see Tyke Furlong, a tight head prop, bobbing and weaving out in the wing, giving a pass to James Lowe. He just doesn't sit back then after he's tackled and say, that's fine. He gets up off the ground and he's sprinted to try and affect the next play. Like, there's a lot of things you can take, and I always look for in sport, when you're showing your kids about work rate and desire, and we hear those words in soccer, rugby, GAA, they're the things that it's hard to coach, and Tyke Furlong just does that incredibly well and gets up off the ground and wants to go again. James Ryan makes a tackle, gets back up, another tackle, another tackle, another tackle. It's just phenomenal, their work rate and their energy and their want to do well. But looking at the results of the weekend, that Munster result, when you look at it, 10-all, walking out of there, you're kind of going, I felt frustrated, they'll feel a bit frustrated, but in the bigger picture, before the game, it's a massive result, 2 points away from home. Like, I played with Munster in a lot of games where we lost that first game, and you're deflated and you're kind of going, geez, have we a chance of winning it? They can leave there now with so many positives. We lost in 05-06 against Sale. We got walloped in the first game over in Stockport, and it was tough to pick ourselves up, but we did, and we went on and won the competition. But actually, to get something like that for Munster, it's
I think
massive.
first game in the group, wherever it is, there's always a bit of self-doubt
Particularly
creeps in when you lose your first games. It's just the psychology of it. Like, you know, you might lose narrowly or whatever the circumstances. To lose that first game is always that little bit of, you doubt yourself a little bit.
Munster are not as good now.
No, they're not. No, Leinster,
that result would be better for them.
Absolutely, yeah.
For you, I know you lost again.
That was that was a result that you lads would have got in Sandy Park, the way they grounded out. But particularly if you take the fact that Keith Earls went down before in the warm-up, and the fact that Conor Murray is out. So you've got this new out half in Joy Carberry, who then suddenly, because of Conor Murray's continued absence, is thrown in as the continued playmaker earlier on in the season. And Saturday, given the wind, given the conditions, given the away fixture against the top team in the Premiership, this was a huge test for Munster's new playmaker. other than that very last kick, which I think we can kind of give him a free pass for, he passed it with flying colours.
Yeah, he was brilliant, and I think that little bit of composure and control there in under, like, it's unbelievably pressurised to be out there, and I think Tyg Burns said it after the game, who, by the way, was sensational. Another Leinster player playing with Munster, but he was sensational. It was phenomenal, and he said it in his interview afterwards, you cannot believe how tough that was. And here's a guy who has a natural, incredible work rate. He's just non-stop all the time, and he's saying, I cannot describe how hard it was. And for your fly half there, and in everything that's happened with him making the move to Munster, to be that composed under pressure. The last kick, it's just one of those things, isn't it? The wind is so strong, and you probably can't legislate for that before you get the ball. You think, God, it's my ball, it's never going to go dead.
Yeah.
And but given everything that they were up against, I think they can take so much out of that. The big question mark is they need to be more, or the big issue is more clinical, and that's something we've been saying for a while. Certainly something you can fix a little bit better in training and one or two guys back, but it wasn't the back scenario. It was some of the forwards who were doing little tip-on passes and knocking the ball on, losing it in contact.
It wasn't the day for that sort of stuff.
No, but it's fine. But I think maybe they just felt at times that the guy inside me is going to carry. He's not going to pass, and then they were kind of shocked that he passed it to him. But I thought
like that Archer moment when they were going through that's the big instant.
And you work so hard against the wind. But look, they're small things. Overall, it's a massive result. I think Ulster's performance on Saturday against Leicester was sloppy, patchy at times, but it was a real confidence booster, given on the back of losing to Connacht for the first time in 58 years, getting walloped by Munster.
Can I just point out Michael Lowry on Saturday night, doing it for the middle 5 foot people in the world that can actually go out and play rugby now after that. Like, it was so heartening. Me as well. Myself and Stephen are going to sign up for rugby.
Small man syndrome. Well, small man syndrome threw me into the port, Dublin port, and Ireland's fittest family 2 years ago.
You can't get over it. You just can't let it go.
Caught me on the hop and threw me into the sea. So we're not finished yet, Hunty. Don't worry.
What exactly happened? Has that gone out on television?
We're sitting now. Yeah, we were sitting together on a boat like that, and he gives me
Still need the power on again.
Into the sea. Good job I didn't have my phone. Very relaxed, but we're not finished yet, Hunty. You know that. He's very nervous every time he comes around me nowadays, but I'm still keeping that one. But yeah, Michael Lowry was very good. Henderson was good. Billy Burns, obviously his brother had a howler in Bath. But look, I think for Ulster, Jordy Murphy coming back, Marty Moore coming off the bench, that was a really important result for him. And dare I say it, the English are complaining that the Irish players are getting rested too much and stuff like that. So they're looking for excuses. But Gloucester beat Cass, and Newcastle had a great win in Toulon. So that
this is Freddie Burns up on screen.
Yeah, so he missed a kick a minute or two before that, and he's the full back for Bath. They're 22-20 down. They have a very kickable penalty. He hits the post, missed 2 in the first half. He actually played very well in open play. And so he has a bit of redemption. He runs a fantastic line to get clean through. He's in the dead ball area and about to touch it down, blows a little kiss to the crowd, big smile on his face. And Maxime Maydard, a guy who's around forever with Toulouse, experience, just doesn't give up. We're talking about messages for kids, never give up, even when someone is clean through in goal and soccer, whatever. And he hits the hand and he loses the ball. And
do you ever see that, lads, in soccer? Well, it doesn't really.
Do you know what springs to mind? Ronnie Rosenthal is a very famous one for Liverpool. Yeah, but I don't think it's not even it wouldn't be as bad as that. It wasn't as if he was naturally complacent, like just made not the kind of contact. Yeah, you know.
What would you say to him? If you're what could you say to him in 2005 and what could you say to him in 2018?
After he knocked him down, after he knocked him out.
Yeah, it's very difficult because I did the game for Virgin Media on Saturday, and I just felt, oh my God, we all hate to see that in sport, don't we? Because we all
now we're laughing, but
sacrifice and you train your ass off to try and get to a position. Now, some people are criticising, saying, oh, he's so stupid, he should have touched it down and he was being cocky. I don't think he was being cocky. There was an air of relief, the smile in his face, maybe that little kiss
a bit too far,
that, you know, and but just 2 hands, just make sure, you can never switch off in that situation. It was massive. His team took off. There's Ronnie Rosenthal's one. But they took him straight off, which I thought was, oh my God, don't isolate the guy. Maybe Todd Blackadder was saying, look, maybe something else is going to go wrong for him. But like there was 4 minutes left. Give him a chance.
I think that's poor. I think that's poor management. I really do.
Kenny, the guy's like this in the sideline.
You can almost lose a player. If I was in that player's position, I'd feel as if I'd been publicly hung out to dry, but I'm actually ridiculed. He's feeling bad enough. He doesn't need to be told the mistake that he's made. He needs arms around him at that particular moment, with teammates or whatever, the manager. So to actually hang him out as he does, humiliate, actually drag him off the pitch. For me, that's almost like that's a breakdown in a relationship between. I don't know what the manager can say to that player now to get that player back on side, because like you said, there's no argument. There's not really a tactical argument. Well, I had to take.
If someone is having a nightmare in a game, Kenny, and they're just things aren't going well, and they miss a few chances as a striker or something. Yeah, take him off with 10, 15 minutes to go. It's more of a look. It's not his day.
Accept that. Yeah.
But this was a kind of a pivotal moment where you're going. This has just happened, and we're just going to hang you out to dry. And you've got that long walk across the field. Some of the crowd are booing. Some of them are kind of going, Jesus, what do I say here? Do I cheer? Do I clap him?
Yeah, horrible.
He was devastated, wasn't he?
Horrible.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
Just a couple of quick questions before we wrap up, Quinny. Like one thing that struck me from the Ulster game, Will Addison, great utility back, the sort of player that would be ideal in a World Cup squad.
Yeah, well, I was asked for World Cup squad a few weeks ago, and I said that he was someone who could be, even though there's very little room to manoeuvre now in Joe Schmidt's squad, because a lot of the guys, they're in, and if they got to play themselves out at this stage, he's someone who could potentially make a run for a World Cup squad. Very, very talented, can cover multiple positions, and he gives them that little bit of spark, that little bit of cohesive kind of movement, if you like, and he's just, people can play off him as well, so very comfortable with the ball, and I thought he was brilliant on Saturday.
Another one, would Leinster win the Six Nations?
Very close, yeah. They're only one international, they've only one non-international, and that's James Lowe, and you could argue he'll probably play for Ireland.
If McGranny had.
Yeah, but
it's amazing though.
It's amazing. They're phenomenal. They're just relentless in the environment they have, and it's the backup they have. They've so many guys like Rhys Ruddock. We spoke about him Friday morning. How frustrated will he be not being in the 23? He comes in.
He plays unreal.
Dan Levy has to pull out in the warm-up. Rhys Ruddock comes in and he's phenomenal. He's an international quality player.
That's scary fluidity.
Yeah, it's just phenomenal. Look, you don't win a competition in round one. Wasps were desperate. You go back 3 years ago, Wasps put 50 points in Leinster. They didn't go on to win the competition, but Leinster are just in a different space. These guys are hungry and motivated, and that's just the way it is. It's they have to. They're at a standard now where everyone else has to try and climb up to. And like I said, looking after the weekend, I can't see any team that can beat them. The only team that can beat them is themselves. When you're that successful and when you're on the top, it's complacency. It's maybe a little bad run of luck.
You can't even say it. Well, you say that we're complacent, and it's an obvious thing to say, but you're not even convincing yourself.
The thing that can happen Friday night there is, look, we've Wasps at home. We win the game. We win at 25-15. It's a few mistakes, but they're relentless. I mean,
it was cold.
It's just, it was like foot on the throat stuff when you're down. Like even
it was actually Stuart Barnes put it very. He said Stuart Barnes said that Leinster penetrate like a stiletto, whereas Munster are more like a hobnailed boot. He said in the Sunday Times yesterday, which is a good way of putting it.
And it's probably fair enough. And look, in an ideal world, I'd love Munster's attack, and they probably would. It's just the way it is. The frustrating thing at times is they have a very pacey back three. They have a lot of danger there. It's sometimes getting the ball. Now that'll come a little bit. Carberry's there. It will come a little bit. And
like the 3-5-2 formation, we want to get solid and then build on it.
The boys in to do a bit of diamond shape work with Munster or something.
I don't think we can teach those lads anything, to be honest with you, the rugby boys.
Just one last thing then. Connacht's big win against Bordeaux at the weekend.
It was a good start for them, and again, it's they're playing well. They're playing with confidence, and Andy Friend has done a great job. So I said it on Friday as well. Look, for me, Pro 14 for them, getting into the knockout stages and qualifying for Europe would be a priority, but a good run in Europe, and it started well from at the weekend.
Yeah, I guess the idea of a European journey, seeing kind of even someone like Bordeaux.
Yeah, it's good, but just it may stretch Connacht a little bit if they get some injuries, and they've had those issues before where they've been playing in both. They probably need more depth in their squad, but it's a good start for them. It's certainly Bordeaux. They came to play actually, and surprisingly, that's the intrigue with some of the French teams. What well they will approach the competition, but it's a good start for Connacht, and it keeps that momentum going for them.
Yeah, definitely. It's great as well that you've got back-to-back European weekends straight away, because you get the sort of taste of it straight away, and you're like, oh, do we have to wait another couple of weeks? But it's strght up, and Munster Gloucester is going to look
yeah,
like
that's
they're
going to be
ties it
brilliant.
around.
It goes back to, we did a piece for the Miracle match in 03, and there's a fair bit of history. They played each other a couple of times after that, and we played Gloucester after that. But that'll be exciting on Saturday. Leinster's one in Toulouse is going to be an intriguing one, because I thought Toulouse showed glimpses against Bats of power, of danger, and maybe they can ask a few questions. But going to France is difficult, but Leinster have been there many times, so they go and we'll see what the reaction is from that Wasps one. Now, can they go and I think they will go and win there, but it's brilliant to have it back.
Yeah, absolutely. You're not going to go to Ireland Wales tomorrow night, are you?
Unfortunately not.
You got a couple of spare tickets there. You got a couple. Nobody's found in yet. Nobody's found in yet. Looking for the tickets.
Retweet the stream. You'll be in the draw for.
Will do, for a draw. I'll rub them off you in a minute when we go offline.
Lads, we're going to wrap up. We're going to head over to the Google Hub in just a moment. Predictions, I guess, for tomorrow night. Quinny, we'll get your prediction here as well. What are we thinking? Ireland, Wales. Is it going to be another bore draw? Kenny, we'll start with you.
I don't think. I always reserve judgment until I see the starting 11. And in all honesty, very difficult to second guess Martin, but he keeps the same system and makes the kind of adjustments we were talking about. I think Wales are struggling a little bit after back of the win against us. They've really dipped in terms of performance. A couple of key players missing. So for me, it's a real opportunity for us. But we need to up our performance levels. Clearly, that goes without saying. But I'd lean towards an Irish win.
Man, Hunty, step up.
I would say we'll score a goal or two if we can. In 1-1.
If we can. Will we, though? Will we?
Yes, we're dangerous set pieces, where if we played two up front, we can be a bit more penetrating going forward. 1-1.
I feel from now, to be honest, with a lot of the negativity and the criticism there. I know the boys have probably dissected it, and it's not for me to say about tactics, but I think if they throw a bit of caution to the wind a little bit, and maybe they should do that tomorrow night. He's hinted at that in some of the stuff he said afterwards, Martin, and hopefully he'll get a boost and get a result. And I hate this nick it scenario.
Yeah.
Actually go and play and score a goal or two and have a cut, really. It'd be brilliant.
Very true. Like, nicking it was like what we did to Wales in the last campaign.
We all love the football. The Irish soccer team are the ones that, lifts the whole nation brilliantly. So, it'd be great if they got a bit of positivity. I feel for the players and I feel for the group that, it's been a lot of negativity now, and we're all good at jumping on the bandwagon of that negativity.
I think Nick implies you're really not getting enough sustained pressure on the opposition in the right areas of the pitch where you need to be. So that's the big thing for me. That's the big up in performance, getting ourselves in an area of the pitch, higher up the pitch, where we can get that kind of sustained pressure, and where I think we can actually offer a real attacking threat with the type of delivery traditionally that we have, wide areas into the box, committing people into the penalty box, and really kind of building pockets of pressure against the opposition. We haven't been able to do that. We've been looking to nick games, not looking consciously to nick games. That's how the games.
We could be here all day, because I think we're fairly comfortable in the formation. I just think we need to be a little bit better on the counter.
That's your real disagreement point, is it?
And we can't be comfortable with creating little or no opportunities from general play. We can't be comfortable.
I think we can be comfortable out of possession.
Against the better teams.
They're off again.
Against the better
teams. Hold on, lads.
I'll go back to rugby. Munster 2005. You were well organised. You were regimental, and then you won.
We probably weren't as skillful as the 08 team, but won, and we were more skillful then. But listen, aside from the tactics that the boys are taught, they need to have a bit of bloody anger tomorrow night.
Yeah,
because
there's a bit of anger at the start of Saturday night, and kind of.
Yeah, but they need it tomorrow night. They need you need that bit of drive and desire, and that hopefully will give them. Lift the spirit a little bit, lift the mood in the stadium, the camp as well. Technically, tactically, they've got to get stuff right, but they have to have a bit of pain now, because Wales trounced them a few weeks ago. They've got to do something about that.
He did too good a job of mediating that. I was looking forward to seeing what
he was like that.
No, wasn't very hard, was it? Two lightweights there. He could have done with two little fingers. Alan was like this, his two little fingers. Like, all right, lads, give it back.
We're still waiting to go over to the Google Foundry. We'll be over there ASAP. It's a great old lineup. Jessica Harrington, Rena Buckley, Sarah Keane, and Graham Shaw.
What is that? The Google what? What is this? We keep saying the Google what?
The Google Foundry. Have you
Foundry.
Yeah, the Google headquarters.
It's a foundry. What is a foundry?
Well, it's a very good question, isn't it?
And if you know what a foundry is,
break it down. Found.
No, I don't think that's the way to go, Steve.
Jesus, Hunty.
Will we hear a bit of Matt Doherty from Saturday night? I think we might hear a bit of Matt Doherty because he had some good things to say, some interesting things to say after his competitive debut for Ireland against Denmark.
Matt, everybody in the football world has been talking about you for the last while. I suppose, what have you made of the talk and the calls for you to be in the team, and eventually you've actually started the game after lots of talk and lots of good performances in the Premier League?
Oh, I've actually not seen that much, to be honest. I guess my parents or my sisters might send me the odd article or something like that, but that's pretty much all I've seen. I know that my dad's seen quite a bit because he lives here. I don't actually live here, so I don't actually see most of the media stuff. But yeah, like obviously I started. I was fine. Like I wasn't great or anything like that. So I've got some stuff to work on.
Having played wing back for Wolves all year in the Premier League, was that a massive help coming into playing a natural position in this game?
It was, yeah. Obviously, it was obviously a different type of wing back. We just play differently. So it was a good experience. Though. I enjoyed it.
Matt, lastly, I think you have your jersey in your hand. Where do you keep your memorabilia? And will this one be an extra special one for you?
No, I'll just give this to my dad. We'll probably give it to someone else. He likes to promise people jerseys before I get them. But yeah, I won't be keeping them. It'll be probably go to my family.
Matt Doherty there, speaking after the game on Saturday night. A foundry is a workshop or factory for metal, says Tommy in my document there. So there you go, Kenny.
Metal, does that... Google, is that a natural fit, is it? I'm thinking sheets. I think sheets of metal there. I'm thinking real manufacturing there, like a foundry. You know, like a real foundry, like, you know what I mean?
It's kind of like
the workers going in, P-caps going, you know what I mean? The masses going through the big doors of the metal. That seems more like a foundry to me rather than people walking in with their espressos, and a bit like Stephen this morning walking in his little espresso.
Did you have an espresso
going to work in the foundry?
We're unfortunately on that. I was going to get into that flat white.
That's a flat white on top of his head.
Oh, leave me alone, Kenny, will you?
Thanks for being for this morning. We'll get you in again soon. Of course, Ireland-Denmark tomorrow night. We're going to cross over now to the launch of the 20x10 conference at the Google Foundry. It's a national movement to champion Irish girls and women's in sport. Ger Gilroy is going to host the panel involving Jessica Harrington, Rena, Buckley, Sarah Keane and Graham Shaw. It's over to you, Ger.
There is, I mean, no matter what they say, he's playing in the Premier League, he's playing against better players week in, week out. That's a given. But all of a sudden, he's coming over here, and there is that added pressure because, as we've said it many a time, an Irish lad playing for Ireland is the ultimate. No matter what we think about, well, you can win trophies, but that's where you're going to get the more scrutiny on any player. All you lads, everyone that's covering the spotlight. Essentially, yes, it's League of Ireland, it's our players and our crop of youngsters, where they're going and what they're doing. But everything focuses on the senior side, and there's that much scrutiny on the international players when they come in. And I don't buy the suggestion that players can cope with it and things like this. Individuals, so many different players are different characters, different individual mindsets, and some players can't handle it as well as others, and that's the way that it is. I'm not saying he did. I'm not saying last night. I think the way that we played last night certainly didn't suit Matt Doherty because he was so deep, and that was maybe it was more out of necessity more.
When's the
And from a defensive point of view, you know, really important, I suppose, to keep a clean sheet given the previous couple of performances and results. I'm sure everyone was really happy to have, you know, kept them out tonight.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's something to build on. It's a clean sheet in the Aviva at home, and then we look into Tuesday as well, looking to build on that.
How easy or hard are clean sheets to get in international football? Because, as I said, given the last couple of results and performances, they weren't easy to get, but we looked quite solid tonight from a defensive point of view with the back three and the wing back.
Yeah, definitely. I think we had a good shape throughout the game. They didn't really cut us open or cause us any real problems. The set pieces, they were a bit dangerous and balls into the box, but I thought the three at the back were excellent. I thought Longy was outstanding, dealt with everything, and it was kind of easy enough for me to come on to with them boys playing so well.
And just finally being a dub as well, playing here in front of 40,000 at Viva, must have been a nice moment for you. I know you hope to do a lot more as well, but we were unsure what the crowd would be tonight, but it was a decent crowd and they lent good support.
Yeah, definitely. It's something to build on for me. It's a great experience for me, and I'm just hopefully looking forward to many more.
Enda Stevens there speaking to Jamie Moore after Saturday's 0-0 draw with Denmark. We're having a few audio problems, as you could probably tell from the Google Foundry this morning. We hope to bring you back there shortly.
Kenny is delighted. Bit more airtime.
I didn't want to go to the Foundry.
Well, the thing is, I believe it's just everybody was so delighted and so excited to hear us speak about flat whites for a moment that they actually said, bring down the faders. So don't let them go over there. So, Stephen, you said you're a flat white in nature and a flat white coffee connoisseur.
Yeah, well,
explain.
My coffee is flat white.
Are you a coffee
Hair is like, depends on what time
What
of the
is
day
a flat white? I don't.
white.
What is a flat white? What is a flat? Is it coffee with milk in it?
Yes.
Well,
coffee.
Not as much milk.
Not
It's like
as
a
much
latte.
milk.
Less milk, more coffee.
Yeah.
Have you not seen that
That's a
McDonald's
coffee. Growing up in my house, if you what you fancy a coffee, you net the spoonful in the cup,
hot milk as well,
hot water, and you put your milk. That was a coffee. So now it's a flat white. A coffee's a.
So
what's
he
the
has
difference than Americano?
No expansive cereal. He gets
So
2 spoons of coffee. So he hasn't got
you're
the
a coffee
machine,
connoisseur.
like.
You're a coffee connoisseur. What's the difference between a flat white and an Americano?
Americano is
big difference.
Big difference. Yeah.
What's the difference? I'm asking you.
All coffee. Americano is
Americano with milk. Some people put milk in there. So what's the difference?
But
Americano with
flat
milk
white
and a
is
flat
with
white.
hot milk.
Yeah.
And more coffee.
Americano's made with water.
Yeah.
Americano's.
So you've got like.
It's a ratio of milk. It's a ratio of hot milk.
I would say a flat white is like 2/3 coffee, 1/3
hot milk.
Hot milk.
Yeah.
And then say a latte would be 2/3 hot milk, 1/3 coffee. So a flat white is stronger, less milk. So you can drink more coffee in a shorter period of time.
An Americano.
Americano's just hot water with coffee.
Yeah.
Hot water with coffee. No milk.
No, but you can add a milk to
You can add it to it. So it's Americano with milk. That's an additional. That's an addendum.
Yeah, that would be your traditional cup of coffee at home.
Stressful, isn't it? Ordering a coffee now.
Sort of job.
It's stressful ordering a
Well,
coffee
don't forget
now.
I own a gastropub. I should know.
You do
You know
know.
what I mean?
How do you, that's not even
I
a
do
natural
know.
link, is it? We're talking about coffees.
Well, I do. I've got my coffee. I see my staff make the
So
coffee.
you serve coffee in your gastropub. So that's the natural link to bring in one of your many business ventures that you've undertaken.
But
Where's your card?
You describe yourself as a flat white.
I'm a flat white.
Yeah.
Hair, bit of froth, bit of. He's flat. Sorry, Kenny.
No
It's
milk.
A cheap shot, like
no
it's a
milk.
cheap
There's
shot,
no milk
like.
up there whatsoever.
I've never actually heard anybody described as a flat white. It's a
What
good
would
one.
you be if you're a coffee? What would you describe your hairstyle?
A pumpkin spice cappuccino or whatever that they release for Halloween.
Hazelnut.
A hazelnut, whatever it is.
Add a hazelnut, yeah. Latte hazelnut, is it something like that?
I think we've got the 3 biggest hair problems in studio this morning, which is great. You know, we can all kind of relate to one
We're not
another.
Keith Andrews, we're not
I haven't got a
Kevin
problem. I haven't got a problem whatsoever with my hair for obvious reasons. I have no problems in the morning when I get up.
One less job.
What about yourself, Hon?
Could you?
How long?
Not
Does
that.
it take to get it into that condition? Not long. Come on, you're clutching 15, 20 minutes.
I've got
20
Bit of
minutes.
product
You know
in
why I
there.
like the 3-5-2 formation? It's because mine is wing backs in it, like we're a bit loose down the side, like we're a bit exposed areas on the head, like could fill it in.
On that note, it was even better note than the flat white. We're ready to go back to the Foundry. Thank you very much, Stephen and Kenny. Here's Ger at 20 by 20.
It has got easier for women in the racing and in training, and especially, you look at Rachel Blackmore, who's actually here this morning. She, up till yesterday, was leading jockey since May. Against all the Ruby Walshes, Barry Geraghty's, Robbie Parr, Hull Townend, she was the leading jockey in numbers of winners ridden this year. And that is an achievement. She is a leading jockey. She's not a leading women jockey, female jockey. We've got rid of that tag that it has to be female or male, where she's now being treated as an equal, which I think is an amazing step forward.
What else needs to happen, Jessica? What else? How else can we all improve on this?
I think just encourage, make sure it goes back to the thing is when I grew up, every role model that I had, either jockey or trainer, were men. I think now, at least there are jockeys out there, girls that can look up and say, Rachel Blackmore did that. Look what Katie Walsh has achieved. Look what Nina Carber has achieved. There are people there up there who have achieved, have become role models and will encourage people to do it. Hopefully, more women will become trainers because of what I've been lucky enough to achieve.
Graham, the cultural recognition piece was something that the hockey team achieved with 10 years of hard work and then overnight success in terms of the public's perception of it. In the middle of it, were you aware of what was happening? The fact that the GAA crowds before the evening matches were in the pubs watching the hockey team right around the country?
No, not at all. Completely oblivious to the whole thing. I mean, we were over there living in a bubble, preparing for every game and debriefing every game, and just trying to keep ourselves focused. So, oblivious to what was going on. And
when you talk to your team and what it was that inspired them to get to the point they're at, do you recognise in Casey's story and in the stories that you're hearing here that like they all have had to make that journey as well? Or is hockey one of those other sports that, a bit like swimming, is fairly 50-50 in Ireland anyway?
Oh, I can relate to so many things Casey said. I don't know if hockey. I think the men have probably got more support over the last number of years. I mean, even when I was playing myself, the women's team would have been a little bit more maybe secondary to the men's side. But I think hockey is probably nearer to swimming than maybe any other sport, based on the numbers of playing the sport and so on. I mean, my girls are. Inspire me. They inspire me every day to do a good job, to be a better man. I think us men have a lot to answer for. Why women's sport is not in the media and in the public eye a little bit more. And I think it's of course it has to change.
So when you got the job, were you aware of the fact that there was a little bit of a gap to make up in terms of what they would have been entitled to or getting, even just in terms of, I don't know if it's funding or if it's just even a perception?
Yeah, I think it's perception. I mean, funding, Sport Ireland are fantastic to us, and Sport Northern Ireland in their support. And there's no division there as regards support. But listen, we need to change things. We need to give them the opportunity and the platform to succeed. Because when you get behind them, they can do incredible things. And I think that's we've had a summer where you talk about sponsorship. We got a sponsor came in six weeks prior to the competition, and it's incredible even that, the confidence and belief that gave them, going into a World Cup. And when we empower them, we support them, they can do special things.
Sarah, do you see knock-on across other sports from the success of things like the hockey team? Or are we still not quite set up? Is the architecture around a successful team still not there so that the girls who are watching that wander down to a local sports club? Are we in a position yet to capitalise on a massive summer bandwagon?
Not there yet would be my view, I think, and that's one of the reasons that I think something like this campaign is great, but also the policy behind it all is the big piece. And obviously, as someone who's working in sport rather than competing or participating in sport in terms of that side of things now, that's still a piece that's been worked on. So John Tracy spoke about Sport Ireland coming out early in the new year with the policy and a strategy around that, and I think we all need that, because there's so many people so many people in this audience today who care so much, who are doing so much to either, as I said, be part of the team or to be driving behind. But we need an alignment in terms of, well, what is our ultimate aims and how are we going to measure it and how are we going to make it happen for everybody, not just for those, as I said, who kind of really just break the barriers around it. And I think that's the stage we're at, which is a really positive place to be. I think across every sport, there's still a lot to be done. I feel the leadership piece is a big piece. I mean, even yesterday, about a feminist, how do you feel about feminism was one of the questions asked to the candidates for our presidency. It's a huge issue in Irish society. I heard the Taoiseach speak a couple of weeks ago at the International Women's Caucus in terms of politics. And he said that, we had obviously Countess Markovic and we had no female politician for, 50 or 60 years afterwards. During that time, we had the Magdalen Laundries and all the institutional stuff that happened in this country. And one of the points he said was, if we had women leading in politics at that point, would we have had the same history as a nation? And no one can comment on that, but it really made me think in terms of, again, and it's not just about women and men, it's also about diversity, obviously, which is something that we have to be aware of as well. But I think we're moving towards putting some sort of structure and infrastructure in place. A lot of it's happened too ad hoc.
Well, the previous Minister for Sport, or maybe it's two ministers, the previous Minister for Sport had the notion of withholding funding unless there were actual quotas met on the boards. And I thought, well, this is a great move. It's quite aggressive. But actually, everybody woke up and went, oh, hang on a second, we're not going to be able to do that right now. I thought that was a good move, and then suddenly it's quietly been a little bit retired, that whole notion.
I think what people decided was, well, let's try target setting first. And I think the stats will show that there has been improvement. From my perspective, not quickly enough, and that's why I think a lot of females you talk to in different positions believe in quotas, others don't. But if you want things to happen quickly, I think the proof of the pudding is in the quotas. However, the Department of Sport and Sport Ireland have come out and said that the code of governance is to be mandatorily introduced by, I think it's 2019, 2020, 2021 across sports. And part of that is having gender diversity on your board and having independent directors on your board. So it's coming in now.
It's a kind of backdoor, and there isn't. You remove the thread of the stick. You feel.
Well, no, it will be related to. My understanding is that that will be expected in terms of how you run your sport and how you operate your sport. But I think there's been a lot of people trying to do it. This campaign, there's 58 national governing bodies signed up to this already, and I believe that most of the rest of them will come on board, and that's on a voluntary basis to try and improve things by 2020 by 20%. So that's a sign that there's in the sector there is a will. But my own view is if you want to bring everybody with you, that's the way to go, and I think Sport Ireland are going that way at this point.
Rena, in terms of the coverage of the sport that you've seen, did it grow at the pace that you would have anticipated? Was there an outlet that you actually could kind of see people talking about the games that you were playing in? What does this look like when it's finished in terms of what you would like to see for the coverage of women's football and camogie?
Yeah. I suppose I started playing intercounty in 2003, and I finished up last year in 2017. And the changes that occurred over that period is phenomenal. It's unrecognisable, to be honest. I suppose what I'd be really proud of is participation levels have jumped hugely, but we definitely need to work in terms of coverage. No, over the last 5 years, there's been big changes again. Ladies football in particular, everyone, acknowledges the success in terms of attendances. Coverage has improved hugely, visibility has improved, but there's still a gap there, and we still need to close that gap.
How do we go about closing that?
That's a good question. I think sponsorship is key. Promoting our role models is key. Somehow getting the media coverage, getting the media to back us. I suppose looking at it as sport and not women's sport, that it's just sport. That's all very, very important.
Yeah, we had Nikki Evans in last week, and she was just part of a promotional campaign. And so a lot of the way, lifting the curtain here a little bit, but a lot of the way that the in-studio interviews we get with sports people are organised by PR companies who are working on behalf of sponsors. And it was like just a matter of fact that she would be in that day, and there were the amount of access that we now have to female sports people as a result of sponsors understanding that this is a virtuous circle. You can see the hockey team benefiting from that, but we also benefit from it because the next time Nikki comes in, we know her story and we've kind of talked to her a bit. And really, it feels like there's a push-pull element here where the media do have a role to play in saying we're going to start covering these things and learn about the people who are in the public eye and actually engage with them on a meaningful level. And that's where we get to hear the stories of people.
Can I just say one thing on that? My experience, and I think it's borne out as well across research, if you look at what business companies are doing, is that generally women need more encouragement to put themselves forward, and that includes putting themselves forward in public. To be part of to be interviewed or being involved in things, they need the same in terms of leadership positions, and sometimes they need the same in terms of actually getting involved and participating at all. So a lot of the big companies, corporates in this country now do training programs for women. Now, when they get to a certain point, they have to go forward on their own merit in terms of looking for the promotion or whatever it is, but they are offered those mentoring opportunities. So I think that the investment around that is vitally important as well, so that when people are out, doing their sport or doing whatever, when when they get an opportunity then to put themselves forward for interviews or to have their photograph taken or whatever else, that there's a confidence that comes with that as well.
Yeah.
And I think that's starting to change, but we are behind in that regard. Just that seems to be something a bit more specific to it's obviously not everybody, not all men are really happy to stand up either and be interviewed, but it does bear out that is something that women need more support over.
Yeah. Jessica, when did you become comfortable, like, just being Jessica Harrington, horse trainer?
Took a good while because it was just so, I wasn't meant to be there. And I got the feeling that I wasn't meant to be there. And I had to make sure that the only way I could prove myself was make my horses win. Be successful, because if you're successful, then people look up, which is the wrong, it is right because you need to be successful, but it's the whole way of getting there, and it's very hard. There were times I felt like saying, oh Jesus, do I really want to do this? And then once you get there, you get support. There was very few support things when I was doing it. I started off 30 years ago. There was very little support in, go on, encouragement, go on, do it. Mostly it was, look, I suppose you can do it. There was that, I suppose you can do it, as opposed to you can do it. And it was, when I was listening to Casey there, there were so many things she said that, you have to get up and you have to love it every morning. And then you can do it, because you have to get up with that will.
What kept you going? Why did you keep going?
Why did I keep going? To prove that I was right and they were wrong. And I'm stubborn.
It definitely pays to be stubborn. Was there a point when you realised that, like, you had made it and like you had become a role model?
It's very funny, that thing. I was talking to Rachel Blackmore before I came down here into here. Was you have goals and you get to your goal, but the other thing is, as soon as you got to that goal, there's another one and another one and another one. So have you ever made it? In my mind, there's still a lot of things that I still want to do and achieve, but probably people looking at me look and say, yes, she has achieved, but to me, I have so much more that I want to do. There's so much more, I want for women to do in racing, to get there and let them all, and in all sport, you don't give up. Just always want another goal, because that's what keeps us going.
What would you like to see racing do? So when you said there were no supports for you 30, 40 years ago, are there supports for the women coming through as trainers now that you feel like?
You still have to paddle your own canoe, because you have to be taken for what you are. But and again, it goes back to the culture thing in Ireland. This is a man's job, so then what are we doing it for? Because I remember when I first started training, the owners would ring up and they wanted to speak to my husband, Johnny. He hadn't a clue what was going on because he had another job. So, it was a cultural thing, and it still is a slight cultural thing. Women trainers, inverted commas.
Yeah, it definitely feels like this is twin-pronged. It's obviously about showing kids that there is pathways, but it's also about making sure that the inner voice, and Sarah Colgan was talking about it earlier on, that, look, I'm just going to let it go. I think every parent can identify with that, and we need to change parents' minds that it's not okay to let the kids drop out of sport, particularly if it's a girl.
I'm actually at a stage whereby I'm... My kids are all brought to all the same stuff, but I'm also saying to them that, Mammy's now going out to do a bit of walking or swimming or whatever she's doing, and I'm not, you don't say to me, oh, Mammy, stay. You say, Mammy, that's great. Go now, have a good session and make sure you do something healthy for yourself. So there's a recognition that we're all doing a bit of sport and we're all doing something that's good for us, and we're all contributing as a family to each other's support. So the family network is so important. But look, I'm very excited for the future of Irish sport and for women in Irish sport. I mean, I was concerned, and I've said it before, about a year or so ago, that, because there has been huge improvements, that there was a sense of, the job is done now. Sure, with women CEOs, and we have women at high performance doing a great job everywhere, and we've women coaches, and we've all this sort of stuff, so the job is done. It's far from done. But what's exciting for me in the last year is that there's still a huge amount of energy. Look at the turnout this morning. As I said, so many people in this audience are doing so much already for women's sport. We now hopefully will have an aligned policy and strategy. We have, look at what this 2020 campaign is doing, and sponsorship behind it. and all the media, getting involved and saying they're going to back it. So I think we're at a government are doing the same, extra money into women's sport for 2019. So I think we're at a really good time. We just have to make sure we harness it, and that we try and make sure everybody individually knows what they can do to contribute to happening it for, again, everybody.
Yeah. Rena, what kept you going? Was there somebody in your life when you were young, was it an option for you to drop out? Why did you keep going?
Oh, I just loved it. I love playing. There was no two ways about it. In fairness, I was very lucky. I didn't come from a sporting household. Like, my parents had no idea what sport was until we came along. So I have an older brother, and he got involved in sport. And then I took to it. I played with the boys. But I was lucky we had girls' teams. So I'm from a hurling area. And I remember the parish next door to us, I think they were county champions at the time. Never even knew they had a team. So joined the team and haven't looked back, I know, I suppose it's much more obvious where the club teams are, where you can join, where you go to play. So that's great. I think participation has really improved. But it's a shift in culture is what we're looking for, and we're looking to. I think the shift in culture is happening. But we're looking to accelerate that, and I think investment is hugely important. We were talking about knocks that women get along the road, and I remember even, I suppose in my mind, I thought there was this huge shift after coming in women's sport. I remember last year, I was asked to present medals to a club team in West Cork. So the boys and girls had come together, and they had won the under-14 championship in ladies football and the under-12s in boys. So they asked me to come down and present the medals. So I went along, and when I got down there on the night, the guy who asked me took me aside and he said, "Look, we're really sorry, but the GAA team actually don't want you to present the boys with the medals." This was like an under-12 boys team, So that was absolutely fine, They got some local guy to do it. He was absolutely mortified, he could hardly look at me. He was really embarrassed. But that's just the mindset of whoever was organising that. So, we're looking for a shift in that, and that's a rare thing now, but it does happen. That was 2017, That wasn't 1986, that was 2017. So we're looking for this massive shift, and I suppose this is looking to accelerate that as quickly as we can. And I think it's fantastic.
That's madness. You're a Cork legend. You've got 18 All-Ireland medals. That is madness, and it is terrible that this happened, because it's obviously not the 12-year-old kids who are deciding it.
No.
I'll ask you one question on that. How many men's trophies are bigger than the women's trophies at events? Almost all. And I was at an event, and I said, a sponsor was standing beside me, and
you mean the actual trophy?
Yeah,
cup.
and the cup. And I said to him, "Did you notice the difference there between the men?" And he just looked at me and went, he said, "Sarah, it'll be different next year." So you have to point it out sometimes. And actually, most people are willing. I mean, you've all seen that. Sometimes if you point it out, most people will go, "Geez, I never even saw it. Didn't even see it. Didn't even recognise. I never thought about it." That's appalling.
I think it's a massive culture shift. I mean, it's funny even now with the success with the women's team. I was out the other evening, and two lads asked me, "When are you going to do the men's job?" And I looked at them and what? We just want a silver medal in the World Cup. I want to be with these for the next 6, 8, 10 years if I can, because this is the team that I feel that can go to the next level. And it is a culture shift. It is a mindset that we need to change, and us men can do a huge job of it. We need to take it on board and realise, the impact that we need to have on these young women coming through. I mean, I have a young girl myself, and I want to obviously encourage her to get involved in sport. And the first thing she said to me when I came back from the World Cup was, "Daddy, I want to be a hockey player." And that shouldn't mean as much as it meant to me. But it's amazing that these girls have impacted in young girls' lives, and that's what we want to.
Well, let's talk a little bit about if you can't see it, you can't be it, because it's your privilege and your bias that, again, Sarah was talking about earlier on, that you have to chisel away from. I had no shortage of role models. I could have looked up to Paul McGrath or Maradona or Jimmy Barry Murphy or DJ Carey or whoever it was, but watching games with my daughter, she's like, "Why are they all men?" And it tends to always be, apart from obviously TG Carr showing stuff, and latterly the Camogue's been on RT as well. But that's why the role models actually matter, is so that the kids can go, I can see this, I can actually do that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something that our girls are very, very proud of. They want to set out to create a legacy to inspire the next generation of all sportswomen coming through. And we want to hear a kid out in the road shouting, Buckley scores, rather than a male name. We want the young girls inspiring and looking up at women where they can, they want to be them. And I think that is so, so important. You're spot on. I mean, as a young man growing up, you see so many people so many men in the media, so many people you can look up to, but it's not the case with women. As you say, 50% of the population. We need to get our act together.
Jesse, are you conscious of being a role model? Is it something that you're happy to do now?
Well, it sort of sits rather uncomfortable on me, but I realise that, in a way I have a responsibility. Having been successful, I've got to, encourage people. So, basically my message out there, it is possible. You can. If you stick at it, you can get there. Don't give up. But it is, it's funny, when you actually think about racing, most of the owners are men as well. And this year I brought in a new concept. We had a syndicate called All About the Girls, and it was a syndicate that had 2 horses, and there were 30 women that were all, each had a bit of these 2 horses. And it brought a new thing to the races, because luckily the horses were successful. Well, they came in, they dressed up, they came, a lot of them had horses before, but they were their husband's horses. This was their horse, and it was all about the girls. And it was a great, it was a really good concept, and it brought a bit of fun.
Yeah.
And I think that's another thing, it's bringing it to another thing, to get aware that women can do this. It's not just a male-orientated world.
Rena, the point earlier that Sarah was making about, frequently the outstanding people like you will rise to the top, and it's the mediocre players, or the ones who we just want to come along and be part of it. That's the reason why role models are important. And I wondered, was your generation conscious of the fact that you were a generation who were becoming role models for that next generation, given that maybe you didn't have as many role models, certainly female role models, growing up?
Yeah, definitely. I don't think it was something we were aware of at all. On the ladies' football side of things, I remember the first time I walked into Cork senior ladies' football dressing room. I knew nobody apart from my club mates. Maybe if you played against them in the club championship, but if they weren't from a senior team, I didn't know who they were, because I'd never seen a ladies' football match. I'd never read an article on the paper about a ladies' football match. I knew nothing about the Cork ladies' football team. The Cork Camogie team, I'd been to watch them. I knew who they were, and it was my dream to play on the Cork Camogie team, because they had been in Croke Park. I'd seen them play. So I think that was a huge ambition always. And then I was just really lucky in terms of the football team I came along with. And I know it's totally different for girls in Cork now.
Do you feel it now, though? Because you're definitely talking to the Mayo ladies team and the Dublin ladies team. They're conscious of the fact that they're supposed to be role models, that's part of their job now. And it's hard, because you didn't get involved to become a role model, but activists, athletes are now something that we kind of expect a little bit of our athletes, particularly the successful ones, going, come on, you've got a platform, go and use it.
Yeah, and I think it's great that that girls have the opportunity to be role models. And if you put some thought into it, it was mentioned there earlier on. Everybody is a role model. Young kids that are in 6th class, they're role models to the 3rd class girls and boys. So everybody is a role model within their family, within their communities, within their sport. And I think anyone who's playing sport at a high level, is in a unique position that they can be role models and they can influence their sport. And look, it's a huge responsibility.
It is, and the parents as well, who are like, yes, no, we are going to go, even though you hate this week, next week you're going to like it, and the week after you're going to like it.
It's a great opportunity too.
Sarah, talk to me lastly about that leadership issue. We'll open it up to questions from the crowd in a moment, but you mentioned leadership is an issue that you think we need to focus on. Generally in Irish life we could do with improving our leadership skills, but what specifically in terms of the 20 by 20 campaign can be done practically?
Can I just say something around this as well, which is relevant to that, is that we have to recognise the differences. So if there are a lot more women who've longer hair than men, right? So if they're in the shower, they come out with wet hair. It's not, and they go out to a cold, they get sick, right? So recognising therefore that needing hairdressers in a showering area for females is actually part of recognising that's relevant from a health perspective, but also to encourage more people to get involved if they feel better, if they've showered and they've dried their hairs properly and they can come out. I mean, there's now waterproof mascara in terms of the swimmers coming out, like going into the pool. So there is a whole piece that has to be recognised around the differences for women as well as men in terms of helping us participate in the barriers. And I think if these discussions are taking place with whether it's with women are around, there are things that they'll think of that men won't that contribute to it, and that's why I think you need more female leaders. It's one of the reasons you need more female leaders, but it goes back to the whole thing about diversity, and it's proven all the way around the world that better decisions, whether it's in the corporate world, whether it's in sporting world, in any world, are better if you have diversity. I mean, we have, as I said, diversity is much wider than women and men, but since we have 50% of, in this country of our population or more, Peter Smith would be able to give me the exact number, are women. That's not reflected in our society, and so the good place to start is at the decision making, at the table, where decisions are made that influence a whole area of whether it's sport or whether it's art or whatever it is, that will ultimately. It will impact on the conversations that happen and the decisions that are made, and the people who are speaking and handing out medals and everything else.
Yeah, no, totally. And it's about checking your privilege. Like, we at Off the Ball have not been as good as we should have been, and have not been thought leaders in this area over the last decade and a half that we've been in existence. And that's why when Along Came a Spider came to us, we were like, yeah, we definitely, desperately want and need to be involved for all sorts of reasons, to improve our decision making, to check our privileges, to open up a new market. The fact is that there are a bunch of people who don't have access to the sports coverage that reflects their lives. But if you create that, then all of a sudden the audience grows. It's a fairly simple, rudimentary thing. It's exactly the point you're making about the everybody owning a leg of the horse. It's suddenly a new market has opened up to the racing community, and it's economics 101 at a base level, beyond the fact that it makes you a better human being. I think that we all could do it. More women playing sport, watching sport, thinking about sport, and involved in sport. Yeah, totally. Okay, so we'll open this up to questions now. If anybody, we have the first one here is from Rob. Yeah, will you just hang on till we throw the mic at you? Oh, what a pass.
That comes from coaching ladies Gaelic football in Camogie as opposed to playing it. As part of this campaign, we're being asked to make an individual commitment as well as a corporate and an organisational one. Could I just ask each of the panel, just to inspire us and the wider world, what's your personal commitment into this campaign?
We'll go.
Well, I'm on record as saying this in the last year or so. I'm doing a lot of work on the policy side, but I believe we need a women in sport foundation. And I think research has proven around the world that actually keeps the issue on the agenda. Sometimes more publicly, and we definitely need it more publicly, but also then behind the scenes. So my commitment is try and get that set up.
Yeah, good question. So I suppose my commitment is I'm still playing sport at club level, and I suppose my ambition would be, I suppose into the future would be to be involved in an administration capacity. I suppose I'm doing a little bit of that at the moment, but to be that female in the admin capacity, be it coaching, be it on certain boards or whatever it is, that would be my ambition for the next couple of years.
Again, difficult question, but what mine is, my answer to that, what my involvement would like to be, is to get more women into on the management side of racing, more women visibly out there. Being stewards, clerks of the courses, every part of the business, and also just to therefore encourage people to go into the business, encourage girls to go into the business at the grassroots, at the bottom, and work their way up, and don't be afraid to put themselves forward, because half the time I don't think, as already Sarah said earlier, we don't put ourselves forward to do a job because we kind of think, oh well, it's a man's world. It isn't. It's our world. It's an equal world, and I think that's what I would like to encourage.
Yeah, and for myself, it's just continue to fight and work every single day for the program and for the women's side. I mean, that's the main responsibility I have, is to keep them performing and keep putting them in the media in order to inspire the next generation. And I'm just going to continue to work hard on that. And another area that we're trying to focus on Hockey Ireland now is trying to encourage a lot more coaches, female coaches, to get involved. So I've inviting now a lot of coaches to come down and observe our training sessions and get more heavily involved in the coaching side.
And qualify for the 2020 Olympics.
Yeah, that's the big one.
Yeah, no pressure.
Yeah.
Another one here in the middle. Yeah, if you just want to hang on. Yeah. Good catch.
Guys, thanks for an inspiring morning of conversation all around. Specifically, Graham, I want to know what you think. We've talked a lot about role models and kind of the responsibility role models have, but what do you think the responsibility is on men who are involved in women's sport, and where do you see that going?
Oh, difficult questions. Well, first of all, we gotta support them. We gotta get behind them and support a lot more, and care more about it. I think it's like anything. It's even Casey saying earlier on, do what you love. We gotta care more about women's sport. We gotta care more about how they're profiled, how they're in the media, and how we support them. So. Yeah, that's just the biggest thing for me is we got to care more about it. I love watching women's sport. I really thoroughly enjoy watching it. I mean, you even look at the GAA final this year. I think was probably the best football game of the year. So I think it's just caring about it, continue to promote it. And that's the approach we'll be taking.
Anybody else? We've time for it. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. Oh, dodgy throw.
Hello. My name is Breed Ryan. I'm the CEO of a company called Queen Bee Athletics. We design sportswear for women. It's not so much of a question, it's more of a suggestion and an observation. I think when you speak about sponsorship and visibility, a lot of the time in sport, people are trying to land massive fishes for the sponsorship, and I totally understand that. But there's companies like us, and there's also companies that aren't selling anything, like thinking of Fair Games podcast, sportswomen.ie. I know Sharon Hutchinson's here tonight. When you're thinking of sponsorship, perhaps I'm in a room full of the leaders of the sport in Ireland. Companies like us are chomping at the bit to promote women in sport in Ireland and around the world, and we do whatever we can with as much money as we have. We don't have a lot of money, we're a small business. But what I'm thinking in the future in terms of promoting women in sport is you might think of small organisations like us in terms of a partnership. So maybe we don't have a lot of money to give, but we definitely want to help with the profile side of things. So my name is Breed, the company is Queen Bee Athletics. I promise I won't try and sell you a sports bra. Actually, no, I don't promise. But do get in touch. If there's things going on, we want to go to it, we want to promote it and do our small bit to contribute to this fantastic endeavour. So that's it from me.
Okay, one last question over here. Yeah. Can you do it the whole way there across? Oh, wow, nearly. Aaron Rogers.
Hi, I'm Sinead from the Journal. This is kind of a question, but probably mostly for Graham and Rena, because we've talked a lot about putting women in the media and telling their stories, but in the men's game, that's actually going the opposite way, where coaches are kind of trying to keep their players out of the media. We see it mostly probably, say, with the Dublin football team, the Tyrone football team, the rugby team. So is that a challenge to people who are playing, or Graham, when you have your players, is that going to be a challenge in the next couple of years, that you're actually trying to pull people too many ways?
No, for me, I encourage it all the time. I think our girls do a fantastic job in the public, and I think they inspire young girls to get involved in sport. So for me, I'll continue to encourage it. I love watching them in the public eye. I think they handle themselves and present themselves incredibly well, and I think a lot of male sports stars can learn a lot off them, and how they present themselves. There's something raw about them and honest about them, and how they speak in the public eye. So no, I'm not going to be one of these coaches now that's going to pull my players in the public eye. I quite encourage it, because I also think it develops you as a person and puts you a little bit outside your comfort zone. Is something you don't normally do. We're sports people, and that's what they do. But actually, to ask them to speak in the public eye and be that role model is very, very important to us.
Yeah, so I suppose from a personal point of view, when I was playing, I probably didn't really like doing doing the interviews and stuff like that. And I remember at one stage thinking, if only I was Stephen Cluxton, I could just say no to everybody. But I suppose as a female, I did feel a responsibility that when media did come our way, I remember you phoning at me after the Camogie final last year, and I was like, I really don't. But we do have a responsibility. We do have a responsibility. You know, that's, you know, I know certain men's teams are taking that decision, but for females, I think it's really important to get female stories out there, and, you know, we really need to sell ourselves. And if the media are getting on board with us, we need to get on board with them in partnership with them. And I think media coverage needs to improve, and we need to cooperate with that. And the more we can do that, the better.
I fully agree. I think that there's a real opportunity to be completely different and to embrace media, because it's a fairly stereotypical, old school, whatever you say nothing attitude, particularly in the GAA. But you know, rugby and soccer have it as well. It's like, oh, some stuff's going to be pinned up on the dressing room wall. There's no evidence that actually works, that pinning stuff up on the dressing room wall works. Lar Corbett scored a hat-trick in an All-Ireland final the morning that he had double-page spread about him was in. So it can inspire people, and it can definitely help to move the story along. One last point, you talked about alignment, and it feels like there's an opportunity in the room and over the coming weeks and months for small businesses to align with big sponsors, for different NGBs to align with each other, for different media companies to cooperate, for sports people to meet and to put themselves forward. And that's really, you would hope, what comes out of something like today.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think, and Evan mentioned it as well, there's been a lot of improvement. I think we all recognise that over the number of years, and there's a lot of people very committed. But you know, if you remember, well, one of the things Casey said is that you need opportunities to make choices, to do different things. So I think we need to be more aligned in order to create those opportunities across. Like it's not just about creating more opportunities for people to participate. Then you have to tell them that those opportunities are there, make it visible. Then you've got to show them people who can explain how it's, you know, how it's hard sometimes, or it's, you know. And maybe how it's difficult to manage it with your schoolwork or other things, or with keeping your hair dry or whatever it is. So we do need alignment across a lot of different things. We need a policy. Sport Ireland are leading on that. That's going to come out in the new year. And I think that will help us all have a better sense of where we come together. But this campaign, and I commend Along Came a Spider and Sarah and Heather, and also the Federation for embracing it and presenting it, because it just gives us an opportunity now to make it more visible and to stand up and make our commitments across sport. And I mean, we are in I think a great time for sport, and with the next 2 years, with the Olympics coming up and all the sport that's happening this summer, and all the commitment across the media, I think we have an opportunity to really get it out there.
No, for sure. Heather, last word to you.
Just one last word, and reflecting Rob's point about everyone making a pledge, and he asked the panel, and they were fantastic answers. But just to everyone, and also to the panel, even something small in the next month, because I find sometimes we chat about what's going to happen, and I feel like if everyone here can just do that one small pledge of, maybe Rena, you might take on December on a certain date, I'll do a masterclass coaching. Just something that everyone can actually commit to in the next while. I think that's what's going to make a big difference as well. And also just to say, 20 by 20 is trending. It's top of the trending in Ireland on Twitter at the moment. So we're making a point already, which is great.
So just to wrap up the pledge that we're asking everybody today, we're asking key stakeholders in sport in Ireland, from national governing bodies right through to the general public, to pledge one action to show their support by doing anything that can accelerate progress for women's sport in Ireland and realise the key objectives. We ask you now to share your 20 by 20 pledge by putting 2 stripes on both cheeks and posting on your own social channels using the hashtag 20 by 20 and hashtag can't see it, can't be. So that's it. Thanks very much. We're going to play out with this to set you off in the right mood for today. Thanks very much, and congratulations to everybody involved.
Gonna show it. Throw down your ring, cause we own it. We gonna step into the moment. Teeth like an animal, hot cause we blend I'm both mechanical, we dropping into gear. Come a little like a champion.